A towering, ethereal structure pierces a swirling violet sky as two figures watch from below. A sudden crack sounding signals the arrival of a mysterious door within the dungeon depths. Elaborate double doors manifest amidst a surge of purple energy and shattering dimensional fragments. Monstrous winged creatures swarm over a modern city, plunging the entire world into immediate, terrifying chaos. Amidst the destruction, a man wielding a vibrant orb of fire emerges to challenge the peril. Standing tall against a wall of flames, the brown-haired man cements his legacy as a world-saving hero. Peace returns as white doves fly over a group gathered in a sun-drenched flowering meadow. The hero stands with his colleague, Shin Sora, celebrating the family they have built together. A warm, content smile graces the hero's face as he basks in the sunlight of a happy ending. A digital display confirms the world is saved, promising a lifetime of happiness with Shin Sora. The perspective shifts sharply to the intense, blue-tinted reflection of a computer screen in a pair of glasses. In a messy room, a grayish-brown-haired young man cheers wildly after finally beating the difficult game. Exhausted but triumphant, he reflects on the countless nights spent fueled by soda to reach the conclusion. He leaves his cluttered desk behind, deciding to order chicken to celebrate his hard-won digital victory. As he walks away, a sudden pat sound accompanies the computer screen switching to a mysterious loading icon. A persistent ding-dong doorbell chime wakes him the next morning, leaving him groggy and annoyed. Still half asleep, the young man stumbles toward the entrance to see who could be visiting so early. He cracks the door open, finding a stern man in a dark suit waiting for him on the other side. Rubbing his eyes, Seonwoo asks for the stranger's identity while still trying to fully wake up. Before he can react, a large hand roughly covers his face with a muffled umph. The scene shifts to a dark, sophisticated office filled with wine, books, and an oppressive atmosphere. A sudden, wet puck thuds through the air as a gloved fist draws blood from an unseen victim. A news broadcast reports on a scandalous broken engagement while muffled groans of pain echo in the room. Heavy metal chains rattle as Seonwoo discovers his hands are bound tightly behind his back. Blindfolded and chained, the terrified young man realizes he has been kidnapped and is in grave danger. Violent thuds continue nearby, causing Seonwoo to panic as he tries to understand his surroundings. A powerful hand suddenly clamps down on the back of his head, forcing him into a submissive position. The suited man stands over him like a shadow, his presence cold and intimidating in the dim light. The crushing grip on his skull causes Seonwoo to tremble with intense pain and overwhelming fear. Nearby, a man calmly peels off a pair of blood-soaked black gloves with a quiet, The sounds of violence cease, leaving a heavy silence that makes Seonwoo fear it is his turn. His blindfold is roughly pulled away, revealing his tear-filled eyes as he finally sees the light. He frantically considers keeping his eyes shut, hoping that not seeing his captors' faces might save his life. A hand yanks his hair back while a voice orders the suited man, Choryok, to be more respectful. Choryok releases his grip, and Seonwoo falls to his knees, screaming about the absurdity of the situation. Shaking with rage and confusion, he clenches his fists against the floor, wondering why this is happening. Fueled by a desperate surge of courage, he snaps his head up to finally confront his kidnapper. He is met with the sight of a tall, remarkably handsome man in a vest adjusting a clean glove. With a bloodstain on his cheek and a calm gaze, the black-haired man confirms Seonwoo's identity. Stunned by the man's striking appearance, Seonwoo's fear is momentarily replaced by bewilderment at this handsome psycho. Surrounded by an almost angelic aura, The captor leaves the young man questioning why someone like him was targeted. Struggling to find his voice, a sweating Seonwoo nervously confirms his name to the mysterious man. He desperately hopes this is all a huge mistake and that they simply grabbed the wrong person. Chorok gently wipes the blood from his master's face, who apologizes for the mess in front of their guest. Seonwoo watches in horror as the man smiles pleasantly while being cleaned of another person's blood. The master brings up the term mentalist, leaving the young man completely baffled by the unfamiliar word. Realizing he has no other choice, Seonwoo decides to play along with the psycho to survive. The handsome man smiles thinly, warning that non-compliance could result in a fate far worse than kidnapping. Overcome by terror, Seonwoo wails for mercy, while the master explains the great effort taken to fetch him. The master points out that the mangled person in the corner is still alive, heightening the scene's grim reality. Damn it, what did I do wrong? Seonwoo wails as the violet-skied dungeon world collapses around him. A sharp, gloved hand suddenly clamps onto Sunwoo's face, silencing his frantic and tearful protests. Jaehwi leans in close, his handsome face inches away as he accuses Sunwoo of faking tears. The black-haired man's calm, beautiful features mask a cold and calculating mind. Sunwoo stares in wide-eyed shock as the master continues to hold his face with a firm grip. Waves of confusion wash over Sunwoo as he wonders who would ever fake crying in this nightmare. Deciding to play the victim, Sunwoo trembles on his knees while the master watches his performance. Sparkling with false sincerity, Sunwoo insists his tears were real to appease the terrifyingly handsome hunter. Jaehwi remains unimpressed, staring down at the groveling young man with silent, piercing eyes. The master laughs at Sunwoo's informal speech, demanding respect while maintaining his own casual dominance. Terrified of a lethal mistake, Sunwoo sweats as he realizes he knows nothing about this man. A thought bubble reveals Sunwoo's distraction as he notices the man looks like a screen-bound celebrity. Jaehwi mocks the idea of jumping out of a screen, looming over the kneeling Sunwoo. Memories of beating a hellish game intertwine with news of a high-profile hunter engagement breaking off. Pixelated wedding scenes remind Sunwoo that the story he's living matches the game he just finished. A man in a tan suit stands tall, his confident posture radiating the power of a guildmaster. Shock hits Sunwoo like a physical blow as he recognizes the name Jaehwi from the game. Jaehwi offers a chillingly pleasant smile, seemingly pleased by his captive's dawning realization. Shaking with a mix of rage and fear, Sunwoo realizes the game's protagonist has kidnapped him. Jaehwi invites Sunwoo to take a seat, finding his constant groveling and trembling more annoying than submissive. Sunwoo's legs suddenly cramp, making him stumble as Chorok Han watches the pathetic display with confusion. A realization strikes Sunwoo as he stares at the massive, stern man in the dark suit. A status screen identifies the loyal goon as Chorok Han, a powerful S-rank berserker hunter. Sunwoo nervously thanks the master for his consideration while his body continues to twitch and tremble. A document is tossed to the floor with a quiet rustle, containing secrets Sunwoo isn't ready for. Sunwoo reads a profile detailing his own life, confirming he's registered as a C-rank mentalist. The young man wonders if it's even possible that his entire identity has been transcribed into this world. Jaehwi makes a formal request, leaving the weak C-ranker questioning why he was specifically targeted. Framed by roses, the handsome hunter dramatically requests that Sunwoo stay by his side to help him sleep. Sunwoo's heart thuds wildly as he is subjected to the man's overwhelming, almost magical charisma. Silence settles over the urban landscape as Sunwoo processes the man's bizarrely romantic-sounding proposal. Realizing the request was about simple insomnia, Sunwoo feels a wave of relief mixed with lingering annoyance.
Seonwoo recalls that the game's protagonist was notorious for flirting with anything to get what he wanted.
Flashbacks show Lee Jae-hee's habit of using his looks to manipulate everyone from recruits to enemies.
Despite the man's beauty, Seonwoo finds his personality to be the exact opposite of a true hero. Clenching his fist against the floor, Seonwoo resolves to survive this encounter and escape the psycho.
Seonwoo tries to argue his low rank makes him unqualified, desperately hoping to be released.
The master dismisses his protests, insisting that Seonwoo's unique status makes him perfect for the task.
Lee Jae-hee lies back and shuts his eyes, silently waiting for the Mentalist to begin his work.
Panic flares as Seonwoo realizes he has no idea how to actually trigger a skill. Chills run down his spine as he remembers the mangled victim and the price of failure. With a trembling finger, Seonwoo reaches out to poke the master's cheek, hoping for a miracle.
A bright flash signals success as the system confirms the status transfer skill has been activated.
Lee Jae-hee drifts into a peaceful sleep as the interface confirms the inflict status was successful. Waving a cheeky goodbye to the sleeping jerk, the chibi-styled Seonwoo celebrates his temporary victory. Exhaustion finally takes hold as Seonwoo collapses to the floor, completely wiped out by the stress. Slumping over, Seonwoo questions if this nightmare is a dream before calling for his status screen. A blue interface flashes, confirming his level 52 status and rank C specialty in this game world. The terrifying truth is confirmed as Seonwoo views his stats reflected against his own weary face. Narrative panels explain the game's brutal death loop mechanics, underscoring the danger Lee Jae-hee represents. Narrative panels emphasize Lee Jae-hee's overwhelming power as the brown-haired man reflects on beating the game. Seonwoo slumps against a wall, despairing over his current predicament and longing for his original reality. A sudden lift of his head signals a plan to gather intelligence about the mysterious Keymaster. Plotting a ruthless extraction of information, a chibi Seonwoo laughs with a mischievous "K-hey-hey" while Jae-hee sleeps. A ding announces the Dreamer skill, but Seonwoo feels a sudden, sharp wave of dizziness as he activates it. His body begins to wobble uncontrollably while a system notification warns that his physical strength is rapidly failing. An urgent warning screen blinks, stating that insufficient mana is causing his health to drain at a dangerous rate. Seonwoo kneels in confusion, unable to understand how his mana supply was exhausted so quickly during the task. A soft precedes Lee Jae-hee opening his eyes, blinking as he returns to consciousness from his nap. Breathing heavily with several huffs, a sweating Seonwoo tries to regain his composure as the master awakens. Jae-hee turns with a mockingly pleasant observation, questioning why the brown-haired man has stopped using his skill. A quiet scoff follows as Jae-hee belittles Seonwoo's level, prompting an indignant correction from the annoyed captive. Gritting his teeth, Seonwoo demands more consideration and perhaps a chair for his next session with the hunter. With a quick swish, Jae-hee tosses a blue vial towards Seonwoo, telling him to drink the replenishment. A chime sounds as the system identifies the advanced instant mana recharge potion crafted by Dongmei Yam. Stunned by the high quality of the gift, Seonwoo listens as Jae-hee calmly assures him it isn't poisoned. Squinting with suspicion, Seonwoo wonders if this kindness is a precursor to enslavement or a sign of heroics. The black-haired master leans forward, formally inviting Seonwoo to join the ranks of his Radish Guild. Turning away with a defensive hand, Seonwoo argues that he expects compensation for being summoned so rudely. A creak sounds as Seonwoo realizes the master's proposal is far different from the horror he expected. Jae-hee details a lavish salary while a tiny Seonwoo asks why he was chosen for such an elite position. Surrounded by a brilliant flash and falling feathers, the handsome hunter strikes a pose that radiates overwhelming charisma. Seonwoo shouts in frustration, demanding that the black-haired man stop his constant distracting flirting immediately.
The young man seeks clarification on whether his unique ability is the true reason for this recruitment.
Jaehwi's brazen expression makes Seonwoo fume, hating how casually the man acts after kidnapping and forcing his hand.
Leaning in close, the master asks for Seonwoo's terms, giving the captive a potential chance to negotiate. Nervous hands fidget as Seonwoo prepares to make a request that could determine his path back home. Seonwoo asks for restricted data on dungeons and other dimensions, hoping for a clue to exit this world. Jaehwi demands an explanation for the request, while Seonwoo feigns a general interest common among professional hunters. Beaming with false excitement, a tiny Seonwoo asks which official he should contact to finalize his enrollment. The black-haired man states he will be Seonwoo's direct superior, causing the young man to freeze in shock. Seonwoo waves his hands frantically while sweating, internally screaming that there is no way he will ever join. Blushing and forming a heart with his hands, Seonwoo puts on a desperate performance of joy to survive. A meow sounds from the chibi Seonwoo as he continues his exaggerated act under Jaehwi's skeptical gaze. Letting out a soft pft of amusement, Jaehwi hands over a formal contract for the young man to review. The sound of paper flapping accompanies Seonwoo's dawning horror as he reads the restrictive terms of the document. Jaehwi offers a pleasant smile while Seonwoo realizes he is looking at a literal slave contract disguised as work. Sitting on the floor, Seonwoo looks up at the master and asks a question about the unfair terms. Seonwoo points at the paper, complaining about the pre-printed name and the absurdity of the execution duties. Jaehwi furrows his brow, dismissively claiming the contract isn't extreme, while Seonwoo wonders if the man is serious. The master's gaze turns icy as he warns that Seonwoo will eventually say yes, regardless of his protests. Flinching at the cold tone, Seonwoo points out that the employment duration is missing from the current draft. With a confident grin, Jaehwi promises to include the specific request for data as a special additional clause. An annoyed Seonwoo glares at the master, refusing to be fooled by his feigned surprise at the missing details. A rhythmic top sounds as Seonwoo tells himself to stay calm while refusing a long-term commitment to the guild. The young man suggests setting a fixed temporary period for his stay instead of an open-ended arrangement. Beaming with relief, Seonwoo thinks the hunter is finally being reasonable when he asks for a specific duration. Jaehwi flinches in surprise as Seonwoo cheekily suggests a 1-month tenure for his role in the guild. A heavy silence falls between the two as Seonwoo waits for a reaction to his lowball offer. Nervous sweat returns as Seonwoo hesitantly raises 2 fingers, wondering if 2 months would be a better compromise. Lee Jaehwi rejects the lowball offer, forcing Seonwoo to extend the contract to 1 year desperately. Trembling with rage, Seonwoo realizes he is being coerced and considers abandoning his negotiation tactics entirely. A sudden realization strikes Seonwoo as he focuses on a specific accessory worn by the guildmaster.
Seonwoo cuts the master off, pointing frantically at the watch on Lee Jaehwi's gloved wrist.
Staring at the expensive timepiece, Seonwoo demands the watch as a condition for joining the guild. Seonwoo shamelessly requests the used watch as a welcoming gift, secretly planning to use it as a getaway fund. Raising his arm, Jaehwi agrees to the demand and offers to fasten the watch onto Seonwoo's wrist personally. Seonwoo flinches as Jaehwi's gloved fingers touch his bare wrist, demanding he stay still during the process. A sharp clack sounds as the black-haired master successfully secures the luxury watch onto the captive's arm. Framed by roses, Jaehwi asks if there's anything else, while a faltering Seonwoo questions the unnecessary intimacy. A bright flash signals the contract's modification, incorporating the watch and new terms into the document. Paper flaps as the magical contract updates itself, displaying the revised terms they just settled upon. Plop! Jaehwi drops a silver ring into Seonwoo's palm, explaining it will activate the contract's binding effects immediately. System screens indicate an identification failure, as Seonwoo's stats are too low to perceive the ring's true nature. Squinting with suspicion, the brown-haired man wonders why a ring is necessary for a simple work contract. With a quick whip, Seonwoo slides the ring on, recklessly ignoring his gut feeling for survival. Multiple dings announce massive stat boosts to Seonwoo's mana, defense, and health from the superior servant ring. A chilling notification confirms a master-servant bond, ordering the new servant to be obedient and earn love. Shaking and kneeling on the floor, Seonwoo is struck with horror as he realizes what master actually implies. Trembling with dawning dread, Seonwoo examines the ring on his finger while piecing together his new reality. Seonwoo points a shaking finger at Jaehwi, questioning the master-servant terminology used by the game's interface. With a pleasant smile, Jaehwi playfully accepts the title, while Seonwoo frantically tries to reject the misunderstanding. Chime notifications explain the ring's tracking and summoning functions while revealing the new affection skill status. Hearts float around the shocked Seonwoo as he curses the invasive and bizarre mechanics of the servant bond. A jolt of panic hits Seonwoo as a warning announces a melancholy status effect due to low affection. Shuddering and twitching on the floor, Seonwoo experiences physical distress caused by the master's declining mood. Jaehwi leans back with a satisfied grin, watching his new servant suffer for his lack of verbal restraint. Sweating and shaking, Seonwoo realizes he is completely trapped by the ring's manipulative status-altering mechanics. Forcing a beaming smile framed by flowers, Seonwoo immediately adopts a submissive attitude to appease the master. Dings confirm that Jaehwi's mood has improved, restoring Seonwoo's stats and deactivating the painful melancholy effect. Smiling pleasantly, Jaehwi praises Seonwoo's quick adaptation while warning him to be more careful with his words. A thud echoes as Jaehwi repeatedly summons Seonwoo, forcing the exhausted man to perform his nightly duties.
The next day, Seonwoo is jolted while cooking, frustrated that he cannot remove the cursed contract ring.
At 3 a.m. the day after, a tired Seonwoo in a tired Seonwoo in a cat-themed shirt complains about another early summons. On day 4, Jaehwi waits comfortably as a fuming Seonwoo clenches his fists in silent, impotent rage. A cock-a-doodle-doo heralds the morning as Seonwoo internally screams at the master to stop summoning him. A blue flash signals a new summons as the master calmly welcomes Seonwoo to a daytime meeting. Seonwoo is jolted mid-brushing as a ticking screen requests he unlock his info for party members. Tick-tock sounds as Jaehwi demands compliance, while a frustrated Seonwoo tries to argue for his privacy. The master stares with an expectant gaze as the clock continues to tick down the remaining time. A sweating Seonwoo curses the man's arrogance as the pressure to accept the party invite mounts. Surrounded by question marks, Seonwoo stares at the status screen, baffled by a mysterious heart at the end. Speech bubbles float as Jaehwi pushes for the infolock change, while Seonwoo desperately tries to resist. Chilling warnings ding as Jaehwi's mood declines, causing Seonwoo's affection to drop and triggering the melancholy effect. Frantic thoughts fill the air as Seonwoo desperately offers total obedience to stop the painful status drop. More warnings ding as the master's mood continues to plummet, overwhelming the interface with red notifications. Flop. Seonwoo's heart thuds wildly as he collapses, overwhelmed by the physical toll of the master's displeasure. Groaning on the floor, the brown-haired man twitches while the black-haired master watches with a cold smile. Blushing and sweating profusely, Seonwoo gasps as he realizes the strange physical sensations are growing more intense. A final ding warns that Seonwoo's skill status has hit -10, afflicting him with a shameful aroused status effect. Baffled by his shameful status, Seonwoo learns the ring grants Jaehwi full access to his private information.
The young man's heart races uncontrollably as he experiences the strange physical side effects of the master-servant bond.
A sudden pet from the master's gloved hand causes Seonwoo to twitch with an involuntary blushing reaction.
Jaehwi casually fondles Seonwoo's ear, reminding the shivering captive that such intimacy is strictly outlined in their contract.
Letting out a pained groan, Seonwoo collapses to his knees as the ring's overwhelming influence takes its toll.
Trapped in a state of physical distress, Seonwoo continues to quiver and tremble under the weight of the bond.
Swoosh! Frantically leaps away, his body reacting wildly to the bizarre sensations coursing through his veins.
Huffing and panting, Seonwoo desperately yields his privacy, begging the master to check his status screen and stop. The black-haired man stares in surprised silence as the servant finally submits to his invasive demands.
A soft pft of laughter escapes Jaehwi, causing Seonwoo to flinch at the man's callous amusement. Shaking with impotent rage, Seonwoo curses the diabolical man for manipulating him so shamelessly through the servant ring.
A furious shout echoes from the building as Seonwoo vows to get revenge for this humiliation. Slumped in a chair the next day, a shame-filled Seonwoo laments the absolute disaster of his previous encounter.
Manager Yoon approaches with a warm cup of coffee, kindly suggesting that her tired colleague head home early.
Refusing to leave, Seonwoo insists on staying until the clinic temporarily closes its doors for his new guild transition. Seonwoo reflects on his arrival at the clinic, grateful for Manager Yoon's help during his surreal first days. In a flashback, the manager gasps in shock upon learning that Seonwoo has lost all his memories.
Looking anxious and worried, Seonwoo struggles to find a believable way to explain his mysterious situation.
Manager Yoon patiently guides the newcomer through the clinic's daily operations, earning Seonwoo's deep gratitude for her kindness.
Touched by her sincerity, Seonwoo views the manager as an angel when she asks to return once he reopens.
A soft creak sounds as Hyono Kim, a regular client, makes an unannounced visit to the happiness clinic.
With a friendly smile, the brown-haired hunter raises a gift bag, explaining he was simply in the neighborhood. Manager Yoon beams at the box of famous egg tarts, delighted by the hunter's thoughtful and delicious gift.
The manager warmly invites their guests to stay for lunch, though the hunter politely declines the offer.
Shock and concern fill the room as Manager Yoon reveals that Seonwoo has been recruited by the Radish Guild. Noticing the hunter's tense reaction, a confused Seonwoo wonders why the mention of his new guild caused such friction.
Hyono Kim offers a strained congratulation, his dismissive tone making Seonwoo question the Radish Guild's reputation even more.
Mid-bite, a system screen abruptly counts down, signaling that Seonwoo is being summoned by his master yet again.
Zwish! A flash of light marks Seonwoo's disappearance, leaving a rolling tart and 2 stunned witnesses behind. Seonwoo sprawls onto the floor as Jaehwi welcomes him back, mockingly suggesting he stay there if he prefers.
Fuming with indignation, Seonwoo yells that he will never get used to being kidnapped mid-meal without warning. Leaning back comfortably, the black-haired master asks if his servant is feeling particularly feisty during their meeting. Seonwoo springs to his feet, demandingly shouting that he has a personal life outside of Jaehwi's constant whims.
Jaehwi dismissively presses his forehead, telling the frustrated man to simply rearrange his schedule to accommodate the guilt.
Passing over a file, Jaehwi claims the terms of service were clearly outlined in the restrictive contract Seonwoo signed. Seonwoo senses something is wrong as he takes the report, asking why he was summoned so urgently this time.
The document reveals a C-rank dungeon emergence report, catching Seonwoo off guard as he scans the official data.
A digital map highlights the government-monitored Central District, detailing the complex geopolitical divisions of the city.
Jaehwi looms over a breakdown of guild territories, confirming that the Radish Guild maintains control over the Gangbuk region.
Pressing his neck in discomfort, Jaehwi confirms the appearance of the new dungeon within their specific territory.
Seonwoo watches with concern, noticing that the master looks unusually pale and wondering if he is falling ill.
Jaehwi irritably claims that Seonwoo's abyssal stats are causing him a headache, much to the young man's annoyance.
To Seonwoo's horror, the master explains that he arranged this dangerous outing specifically to level up his weak servant.
They bicker back and forth as Seonwoo realizes Jaehwi expects him to enter the dungeon immediately. Beaming with overwhelming charisma, Jaehwi laughs off Seonwoo's concerns, calling the C-rank dungeon a measly minor task.
A heavy drop sounds as Seonwoo's report hits the floor, his disbelief mounting at the master's reckless confidence.
Seonwoo argues that while this may be a picnic for Jaehwi, he is definitely not ready for such danger.
The scene shifts to the dark, rocky interior of the dungeon, where a small monster scurries through the shadows.
A rhythmic stomp and crack echo through the cavern as a massive tail swishes menacingly in the darkness.
A blinding flash reveals a giant red glowing eye, heralding the arrival of a terrifying predator in the depths.
Seonwoo argues about his total lack of equipment while following Jaehwi, who promises to handle everything personally.
Frowning with concern, Seonwoo worries about entering a dangerous dungeon without a plan, while Jaehwi remains perfectly unbothered. Seonwoo notices Jaehwi's pale complexion and asks if he is well, but the black-haired master dismisses the concern. Turning to face him, Jaehwi claims Seonwoo is the only person he can rely on for this mission.
Glowing with green energy, Seonwoo uses a healing skill on Jaehwi's forehead, surprising the master with his initiative.
Grabbing Seonwoo's hand, a smiling Jaehwi admits that his servant has far more hidden tricks than he expected.
Seonwoo smiles confidently, suggesting that the master has been underestimating his true potential for quite a long time.
Jaehwi observes how Seonwoo wields his skills, noting that he will need more time to adjust to them.
A comical pow sounds as Jaehwi pokes Seonwoo, who desperately begs for a meal before heading to the dungeon. Seonwoo laments being dragged away from his egg tart, while Jaehwi cold-heartedly prioritizes their contract over his hunger. Jaehwi reminds Seonwoo that their master-servant bond takes precedence over everything else, regardless of his personal life. Seonwoo's internal logic and instinct battle as he labels Jaehwi a tyrant while still begging for food.
Seonwoo flinches in shock as a notification reveals Jaehwi's mood has improved for no apparent reason. A soft pft of laughter escapes Jaehwi, mockingly questioning if Seonwoo actually meant to call him master just then. A series of knocks heralds their arrival at a dark, brick-walled workshop filled with tools and sharp swords.
Lifting his goggles, the purple-haired item maker Dong-Mei Yum excitedly greets Seonwoo and introduces himself with a smile.
An advanced armor set crafted from Amata leather is revealed inside a high-tech storage case, ready for use. Seonwoo jolts as a pink-haired man bursts into the room, shouting for Jaehwi and interrupting the equipment check.
The pink-haired Vice Guildmaster Tyra Bake fumes about being overworked while Jaehwi plans a leisurely dungeon stroll. Seonwoo stares in confusion at the fuming healer as Jaehwi remains perfectly calm and unbothered beside him. Tyra Bake swoops in, demandingly asking if this new recruit is the reason for the sudden dungeon trip.
Seonwoo awkwardly defends himself, laughing nervously while clarifying that this dangerous mission was definitely not his idea.
Gritting his teeth, Tyra Beck stares intensely at Seonwoo, suddenly noticing a striking change in the man's eyes.
A close-up on Seonwoo's eyes highlights the lore that he only regained sight after unlocking his specialty power.
Tyra Bake dismissively declares that Seonwoo is coming along regardless, while Seonwoo internally curses both weird guild leaders. Tyra Bake continues to complain about the workload as Jaehwi explains his rationale for making him Vice Guildmaster. In a chibi-style argument, Tyra Bake shouts about problematic newbies while a smiling Jaehwi jokingly suggests firing them. A sharp snap sounds as Taera Baek loses his temper, shouting at Seonwoo for interrupting the conversation.
Seonwoo groans as Tyra Baek mocks his friendship pass entry, while Jaehwi quickly clarifies it was a recommendation.
A chime dings as a warning reveals Jaehwi's mood has plummeted because Seonwoo denied being his friend.
Warnings continue to ding as Seonwoo panics over the status drop while Jaehwi introduces him as a fan.
A gasp escapes Seonwoo as he realizes his outburst may have pushed the master's mood too far down.
Taera Baek agrees to hear the recommendation, but only if he joins the dungeon raid as well.
The group arrives at Cheongsuk Park, standing before a massive, ornate gate that marks the dungeon entrance. Seonwoo stares at the looming gate with a nervous expression, realizing they are truly about to enter the dungeon. The scene shifts to a traditional pavilion where the guild members prepare for the upcoming C-rank raid.
Seonwoo's eyes widen as he recognizes the S-rank ranger Hana Kim stepping past him toward the entrance.
Seonwoo gushes over Hana Kim, noting that the strong and silent guide is actually his second favorite hunter.
Sparkling with excitement, Seonwoo reflects on why he admires the cool and competent ranger so much.
Seonwoo questions the need for such a large, elite party for what Jaehwi called a minor task.
A blue flash appears as Jaehwi offers to transfer all obtained items and experience points to his servant. Inside the cavern, Hana Kim prepares her weapon as a low rumble signals an approaching threat in the shadows. A whoosh sounds as Hana Kim draws her glowing blue bow, aiming at a stampede of approaching monsters. A sharp plang echoes as the ranger releases a volley of magical arrows with incredible speed and precision. Energy arrows rain down with multiple pow sounds, striking the terrain from the ranger's high vantage point. A pained shriek echoes as a monstrous, deer-like creature is struck down by the rain of magical projectiles. Large, dark monsters charge toward a buff hunter, who stands ready with a massive blade held at his side. Clop sounds fill the air as the hunter readies his glowing green sword for the oncoming clash. A massive crash erupts as the hunter's strike shatters the ground, sending the charging monsters flying in every direction.
Seonwoo watches the display of power in total awe, finally understanding the true scale of high-level guild hunting.
Jaehwi playfully questions Seonwoo's interest, but the younger man insists his constant proximity is purely circumstantial. Taera leans in with a piercing gaze, reminding his new guildmate of his role as an S-rank healer. A terrifying shudder rocks Seonwoo as the pink-haired healer describes a cycle of endless destruction and restoration. Noticing Jaehwi's fatigue, the black-haired master asks Mr. Yeon for help, while a soft swoon of green light manifests. A system screen confirms the activation of Seonwoo Yeon's refresh support skill, illuminating the digital interface. The elite guild members watch with curiosity and surprise as the supportive energy washes over the group. Giving an enthusiastic thumbs up, Seonwoo beams at the skill's effectiveness while the chibi master watches with intrigue. Jaehwi continues his relentless teasing until he drops a bombshell, asking what Seonwoo would do if he truly was interested. A sudden whoosh of wind punctuates the silence as Seonwoo reels from his master's unexpected and flirtatious admission. Framed by delicate flowers, Jaehwi offers a serene smile while repeating his question regarding his potential interest in Seonwoo. Seonwoo stands frozen and wide-eyed, completely overwhelmed by the blossoming romantic atmosphere and the master's intense focus. The black-haired master maintains his gentle, expectant expression, heightening the tension between the two hunters.
In a state of total shock, Seonwoo's internal world becomes a blur of flowers and disbelief at the master's words.
Breaking the silence with a blunt outburst, Seonwoo's wild accusation causes a sharp crack of confusion to fill the air. Taera bursts into hysterical laughter at the newbie's naivety,
leaving Seonwoo looking completely blank and utterly exhausted.
Warning dings sound as the master's mood plummets, afflicting Seonwoo with a heavy, melancholy status effect despite Jaehwi's smile.
A rhythmic shake betrays Seonwoo's physical distress as the negative status effect begins to take a toll on his body. The scene transitions to the rugged, sun-drenched paths of the dungeon as the party pushes deeper into the wilderness. Sparkles and gleams surround Seonwoo as he suddenly becomes overwhelmingly emotional, his eyes shimmering with forced adoration. Taerra notes the strange status effect while Seonwoo's behavior becomes increasingly erratic and overly affectionate toward the group. A sharp flinch escapes Seonwoo as Taerra points out the matching silver rings worn by the servant and his master. Spinning with a sudden turn, Seonwoo loudly rejects the idea of being a couple, while Taerra remains suspiciously observant. In a chibi-style rush, Seonwoo desperately pushes Jaehwi forward, eager to leave the awkward conversation behind them. Watching them depart, the pink-haired vice guildmaster narrows his eyes, finding the pair's dynamic to be very suspicious.
A heavy thud echoes as Hana and the big hunter stand victoriously over a massive pile of slain monsters.
Hana voices her concern for the young recruit, warning him that the current dungeon is far too dangerous for him.
Seonwoo is deeply moved by the ranger's silent concern, admiring how she remains so caring despite her indifferent expression. A golden glow surrounds Hana as she tells Seonwoo to stay alert, reinforcing his belief in her cool competence. Looking completely touched, Seonwoo praises the ranger internally as the only normal person in this guild of weirdos. Constant dings of mood decline warnings fill the air as Jaehwi stares at his servant with a mocking, silent smile. A sudden wobble weakens Seonwoo's legs, the lingering melancholy effect making even standing a difficult task. Seonwoo collapses forward with a soft lean, finding himself caught in the firm embrace of his unbothered master. Trembling with intense embarrassment, Seonwoo hides his face against Jaehwi's chest, wishing he could disappear into a bush. Looking up with a blush, Seonwoo desperately asks why Jaehwi is being so difficult and making him act so strangely.
Jaehwi maintains a calm smile, claiming he isn't angry at all, while Seonwoo feels himself losing his mind.
High above, a dark bird flutters with a series of sharp cree screeches as Hana tracks its flight through the sky. Hana confirms that her scout has found the next path, while Jaehwi continues to lead the struggling Seonwoo along. With a sudden lift sound, Jaehwi hoists his servant onto his shoulder, eliciting a startled cry of "Ooh" from the man.
Seonwoo lets out an oof as he clings to his master's back, dangling helplessly during the sudden relocation.
Jaehwi carries Seonwoo like a sack of grain, politely declining the big hunter's offer to take over the burden. Chibi Hana offers to help while Seonwoo complains about the pain, though Jaehwi insists on clearing the dungeon quickly. Glancing back with a possessive air, Jaehwi tells the ranger he dislikes seeing his servant staring at other people. Each heavy step forward leaves Seonwoo more confused, wondering what on earth his master is talking about this time. To restore the master's mood, Seonwoo shouts exaggerated compliments until the system confirms the melancholy effect is finally deactivated. Gritting his teeth with a heavy press, Seonwoo internally curses Jaehwi's greed while continuing his forced flattery to survive. The verdant canopy of the dungeon forest sways gently under the bright sun, providing a brief moment of natural beauty. Looking utterly blank, a ghostly wisp escapes Seonwoo's mouth as he reaches the limits of his mental and physical endurance. Taerra and Seonwoo slump against a tree in defeat, glaring at the master who blames their lack of pace. Sitting in the shade, Taerra watches Jaehwi with a skeptical expression, clearly unconvinced by his leader's heartless explanation. While Taerra argues about the newbie's tone, Seonwoo continues his desperate, over-the-top praise to keep Jaehwi in a good mood. Seonwoo's hollow flattery successfully boosts his master's mood, earning a small gain in affection despite the servant's internal mockery.
Taera notices Seonwoo's suspiciously submissive behavior, questioning if his sudden change in attitude is tied to a status effect.
The two hunters continue to bicker, with the Vice Guildmaster remaining unconvinced by Seonwoo's insistence that he is telling the truth. When Seonwoo asks if Taera is being difficult because of romantic interest, the pink-haired man offers an immediate, blunt rejection.
Taera criticizes the newbie's audacity, though Seonwoo quickly counters that the Vice Guildmaster has been complaining all day as well.
Their argument is interrupted by a sudden rustle in the undergrowth, prompting an urgent warning to prepare for an encounter. Giant green-striped worms emerge from the forest shadows, slithering and squirming as they surround the guild members. With a sharp screeching sound, one of the massive creatures springs forward to launch a sudden and aggressive attack. Frozen in terror, Seonwoo watches as the grotesque monster lunges toward him with its glowing, fanged maw wide open. A hand moves with a quick swish as it prepares to draw a weapon and intercept the lunging beast. A wet splat sounds as Jaehwi effortlessly kills the worm midair, shielding his startled servant from the strike.
Shuddering with fear, Seonwoo clings to his master while another notification confirms that Jaehwi's mood has improved once again. Noticing the newbie's cowardice, the pink-haired Vice Guildmaster tauntingly offers him safety beneath his magical barrier. Taera stands smugly inside his blue shield as Jaehwi playfully asks if Seonwoo plans on abandoning his side. The black-haired master offers a narrow-eyed, challenging smile, clearly enjoying the servant's visible distress and internal conflict.
Seonwoo panics internally, torn between the safety of Taera's barrier and the uncomfortable intimacy of staying in Jaehwi's arms. Terrified by the sight of the giant, disgusting worms, Seonwoo desperately wishes to avoid an attack from the creatures. Nearby, the buff hunter swings his massive blade with a crunching blow, clearing the immediate path of any remaining monsters.
Still trembling, Seonwoo continues to clutch his master while calling him a total maniac for his heartless, unbothered attitude.
A bright flash accompanies another boost in affection as Jaehwi maintains his calm and satisfied expression despite the chaos. A sudden system sound draws Seonwoo's attention away from his master and toward a glowing notification window. A digital interface appears, congratulating Seonwoo Yun on finally leveling up following the party's successful combat encounter. Swept up in the excitement, Seonwoo hugs Jaehwi while cheering for his progress, though he feels he didn't earn it. The joyful moment turns awkward as Seonwoo notices the rest of the elite guild members staring at them in silence. Realizing his mistake, Seonwoo pulls away with a sudden movement, his face flushed red with intense embarrassment. Seonwoo scolds himself for losing his cool while Jaehwi watches him with an amused and knowing look.
A new system screen announces the unlock of Ecstatic Delight, adding a thrill option to his status transfer skills. Curious about the new notification, Jaehwi leans in and asks his servant to explain the details of the acquired skill.
The master maintains an intense, close-up gaze, closing the distance between them and making Seonwoo visibly nervous. A sudden jolt of electricity seems to pass between them as their proximity reaches a tipping point. With a racing heart, Seonwoo turns away and insists the new skill is just a standard status transfer option. Jaehwi gently reaches out to turn the younger man's face back toward him, refusing to let him hide. The master demands an answer, leaving Seonwoo feeling overwhelmed by Jaehwi's persistent and flirtatious behavior. Swatting the hand away, Seonwoo explains that his thrill skill likely evolves based on his own experiences and feelings.
Jaehwi listens thoughtfully, his expression shifting as he considers the potential of his servant's unique power.
A bright gleam fills Jaehwi's eyes as he gives Seonwoo a mischievous, knowing smile that spells future trouble.
Jaehwi laughs off Seonwoo's protests, claiming to believe him, while the servant continues to shout in frantic denial.
Seonwoo views his master as a sly fox, wary of the constant teasing and hidden intentions behind his smiles.
Arriving at a dark, eerie cave, Seonwoo hesitates to enter while Jaehwi questions if he is truly afraid.
Reaching out with a black-gloved hand, the master offers to hold Seonwoo's hand for comfort as they move deeper.
Seonwoo stares at the offered hand with a conflicted expression, unsure if he should accept such a forward gesture. When Seonwoo refuses the offer, Jaehwi simply shrugs it off, seemingly unbothered by his servant's stubbornness. Taeyera mocks the newbie's cowardice with a mocking laugh, encouraging him to just take the master's hand already. A loud, echoing scream rips through the cave as a new, more terrifying threat suddenly emerges from the darkness. Giant glowing moths swarm the ceiling as Taeyera tells Seonwoo to stop making so much noise and stay calm. While Seonwoo cowers in fear, Jaehwi and Taeyera remain perfectly calm, discussing the monsters as if they were minor nuisances.
Hana Kim stands ready with her bow, her cool composure making Seonwoo wonder if all S-rank hunters are this insane.
Drawing a sword that glows with a fiery golden light, Jaehwi prepares to clear the room of monsters.
With a powerful strike and a sharp crunch, Jaehwi bisects a moth, bathing the dark cave in golden energy. Screeches fill the air as the guildmaster stands ready to face the overwhelming swarm of insectoid creatures.
A fiery flume sounds as Jaehwi conjures a ball of living flame in his black-gloved hand.
With a sudden whoosh, the fire erupts into a magnificent phoenix of golden light above the master's calm form. The phoenix dives with a sharp flare, crackle, and creak, incinerating the swarm of moths in a sea of fire.
A series of zui sounds echo as the remaining moths flutter desperately through the dark cave. The black-haired master lets out a dismissive tsk, clearly annoyed by the persistence of the flying pests.
Moving with a powerful swoom and swirl, Jaehwi unleashes a massive whoosh of light to clear the chamber.
Seonwoo screams internally, his face contorted in disgust at the sheer number of gross, fluttering insects. A rhythmic flap-flap fills the air as the moths are drawn toward the blinding radiance of the light.
A thunderous boom and creak sound as a massive wave of energy shatters the moth swarm in an instant.
Hana Kim stands perfectly poised, her high-tech blue bow letting out a soft psh as she prepares her next shot. On the floor, a single monster lets out a faint twitch as its life force fades away.
With a sharp stab, the last of the fluttering pests is pinned to the ground and extinguished.
Chorak Khan sheathes his massive blade, casually announcing that the room is finally cleared of monsters. Feeling out of place, Seonwoo watches the elite hunters chat and asks where the party should go next.
Seonwoo fidgets nervously while the others chatter and chitter, feeling like more of a nuisance than a valuable teammate.
Tara mocks the newbie for hiding behind the barrier, while Jaehwi watches the bickering with a neutral expression.
While a chibi visual claims pummeling is caring, Seonwoo questions the pink-haired man's bizarre and aggressive leadership style.
Hana lets out a soft pft of laughter, prompting Seonwoo to complain that the situation isn't funny at all. Wearing a stern expression, Hana shamelessly denies laughing, while Seonwoo immediately calls her out on her obvious lie. A heavy da-dun echoes as the guild reaches a massive, ominous chamber, the final floor of the dungeon. Excited to finally finish the dungeon, Seonwoo cheers Jaehwi on with a frantic scratch as he begs for victory.
A sudden flash and drrr tremor shake the earth as a massive red magic circle ignites on the floor.
Letting out a pained ugh, Seonwoo struggles to stay upright as the ground begins to rumble and stagger.
Sensing immediate danger, Jaehwi pulls his servant into a firm clutch while announcing the arrival of something powerful.
The master's expression sharpens as a low swirl of magical energy fills the air, signaling a serious fight ahead.
A heavy step resounds as a demonic, clawed foot emerges from the glowing center of the crimson ritual circle.
The elite hunters watch with a heavy clunk of weapons. Taeyera's,
eyes wide as he realizes the threat.
A menacing doom accompanies a system warning, revealing a massive, black-furred demon with glowing red eyes. The system identifies the S-rank entity as the Dream Demon Nightmare, marking the start of a terrifying encounter.
A powerful womb surges as the demon radiates a dark crimson aura that fills the entire temple chamber.
Floating high above the party, the demonic boss looms over the hunters like a shadow of pure malice.
Another vroom echoes as Seonwoo panics, wondering why an S-rank monster would appear in a mere C-rank dungeon.
The demon's maw glows with a zwirr of power, preparing to unleash a devastating attack on the intruders. Recognizing the magnitude of the threat, Jaehwi commands his team to get ready for the coming strike. A massive croom rips through the air as the demon unleashes a roar of pure, destructive energy.
The temple walls begin to crumble and, unable to withstand the overwhelming pressure of the demon's voice.
With a zing, Tyrant sacrifices his mana to activate a massive barrier, nullifying the demon's deadly roar.
The pink-haired hunter collapses with a heavy flump, gasping with an exhausted after using all his power.
Seonwoo rushes to the huffing man's side, desperately asking if he is okay after such a toxic move.
Taking a determined step forward, Seonwoo looks back at the demon with an expression of shock and resolve. A system notification announces Hana Kim's specialty as she summons the legendary glowing spirit of King Dongmyang. The massive, radiant archer spirit looms over Hana, mirroring her movements as she aims her luminous weapon. A sharp tap and whoom sound as Hana readies a massive, high-tech crossbow crackling with blue electrical energy. With a thunderous thram, Hana fires a concentrated bolt of divine energy directly at the hovering demon. The demon flinches with a sharp swish as the projectile grazes its side, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Zooming in on the demon's face, it flinches in shock as it realizes these hunters possess extraordinary power. A massive pwam rocks the chamber as Hana's energy bolt connects, blasting the demon through the air. The demon staggers back, its vision narrowing as it stares down the ranger who managed to wound it. Chorakhan leaps through a whoosh of energy, executing his moonlight slash with a giant glowing blade.
A sharp swing rings out as the demon's red eye reflects the cold steel of the impending killing blow.
Seonwoo Yen screams in terror as a crackling red energy fissure erupts before his eyes. A sharp zrat sounds as Chorak Han is suddenly afflicted by a sleep-inducing status effect from the demon boss. The menacing dream demon nightmare looms over the fallen party, its presence announced by a low wish. Panicking, Seonwoo Yun stares in disbelief as the elite hunter Chorak Han is incapacitated so effortlessly. Looking at the chaos from a distance, the brown-haired servant feels small against the impending danger. A glitched, distorted vision of Seonwoo's face reflects his fraying mental state as the situation spirals out of control. Jaehwi provides a sudden jolt of stability, grabbing Seonwoo and ordering him to snap out of his daze. With a firm top, Jaehwi heaves Chorak onto his back and prepares to flee, asking Seonwoo if he can run. A series of gulp-gulp sounds echo as someone desperately downs a blue mana potion to regain their strength. Taeyara looks on with frantic eyes, questioning why an S-rank boss would manifest in such a low-level dungeon. With a sudden spring, Taeyara stands amidst the silence of his defeated comrades, feeling the weight of their failure. Gritting his teeth with a heavy grit, Seonwoo Yun feels a crushing sense of guilt for leading the team here. The servant laments his perceived uselessness, blaming himself for the elite hunters falling while trying to help him level up. Reaching out with a hopeful top, Seonwoo tries to use his status removal skill on the sleeping Choro Khan.
A mocking ding sounds as the system confirms Seonwoo's low level has caused his skill to fail completely. Another ding chimes as Hana Kim watches the boy struggle, the system repeating the news of his failed attempt.
Staring at the comatose hunter, Seonwoo Yen begins to spiral, fearing that Chorak might never wake from this nightmare.
Jaehwi intervenes, telling the boy to stop his futile attempts as the brown-haired servant protests in desperation. With a determined turn, Seonwoo Yen insists they cannot abandon hope and must find a way to help Chorak. A new, pink-haired hunter with radiant eyes and a divine halo appears, looking like a literal saint from above.
Identified as a lifesaver, the mysterious healer offers to examine the fallen warrior to determine his condition.
A soft sha sounds as the healer uses specialized acupuncture, confirming Chorok is alive but trapped in magical sleep.
Letting out a weary ha, the pink-haired man admits he cannot break the curse and suggests they seek another way.
Jaehwi makes the executive decision to retreat immediately, abandoning the dungeon clear to prioritize Choro Khan's life.
Hana Kim agrees to stay behind with a shake of her head, ensuring the boss doesn't reset while they're gone.
With a mischievous grin, the pink-haired healer decides to stay too, refusing to let them camp without medical support.
Seeing the unbreakable bond between the elite hunters, Seonwoo Yen finds himself deeply moved by their strength and loyalty. The young servant resolves to stop cowering and face the overwhelming reality of the dangerous world they live in. With a firm clench of his gloved hand, Seonwoo Yen finally finds the inner strength to take a stand. A peaceful sha sounds as the scene transitions to a clear sky, marking the passage of time and setting.
A rhythmic tick-tock fills the silence of a hospital room as Seonwoo sits vigil by Chorak's bedside. In the quiet tick-tock of the room, Seonwoo Yen stares at his system window, contemplating his next move. A sharp beep sounds as Jaehwi checks his phone, advising Seonwoo to get some rest as backup is arriving.
Seonwoo Yen speaks up, declaring that he has a specialized skill he wants to try despite the risks involved.
Jaehwi lets out a heavy frown, skeptical that a low-level support hunter could succeed where masters have failed. A system notification outlines Phase 2 of the Dreamer skill, detailing how it targets those in a magical slumber.
Seonwoo explains the skill allows him to enter dreams, though it consumes a massive amount of his mana.
With a gentle touch, Seonwoo Yen commits to the plan, knowing his success is the only way to save Chorak. Both men lie together as the system confirms that Seonwoo has successfully activated his support skill, Dreamer. The servant focuses all his willpower on his target, repeating his vow to wake Chorak up at any cost. Closing his eyes, a system message wishes Seonwoo a pleasant journey as his consciousness enters the realm of dreams. A series of click, click, and step sounds follow a young boy as he opens a door with a creak. The young Chorak witnesses his parents screaming, with his father shouting that he never wanted a child in his life.
Amidst a crash and clatter, the boy with the glowing yellow eyes turns away from the cruel verbal abuse.
With a heavy thud and bam, the child tries to block his ears and slide away from his parents fighting.
The dream shifts to a hospital, where parents anxiously ask a doctor if their son will survive a heart transplant.
The doctor reassures them, stating that the procedure will be successful and the boy will soon become an awakened.
A gentle pat on the head from a surgeon comforts the young Chorak as he lies helplessly on the operating table. Looming over him, the surgeon in green scrubs asks the boy how long it has been since his awakening. The doctor demands that Chorak be a good boy and sacrifice his heart for his holiness to reach paradise. A surgeon offers comfort with a gentle pat, promising the procedure will be over quickly for the boy.
Looking down with an eerie calm, the doctor bids the child farewell with a promise of paradise.
Gasping with a faint huff,
young Chirok slowly drifts into a forced slumber as the oxygen mask takes effect. Seonwoo Yen steps cautiously into a surreal digital world, his footsteps echoing with a rhythmic step in the silence. Passing through memories, the gray-haired man sees fragments of the past flickering across floating film strips. Confirming his location, Seonwoo Yen observes the floating memories and realizes he has successfully entered Chorok's dream. With a sudden vroom, a massive spiral of glowing stairs reveals itself, stretching deep into the abyss.
Checking his status, Seonwoo Yen worriedly notes a glance at his stats, fearing his mana will deplete too soon. Back in reality, the room is filled with a steady tick-tock as Jaehwi watches over both sleeping men. Looking at the gray-haired youth, Jaehwi observes his peaceful expression and notes how gently he sleeps. The black-haired man reflects on Seonwoo's past, finding it hard to believe he once acted like an angry Maltese. Crossing his arms, Jaehwi admits to himself that he hasn't felt this fascinated by a person in years. He recalls the boy's past cowardice in the dungeon, where he used to flinch at every minor threat. Looking at his sleeping companion, Jaehwi ponders what could have possibly caused such a total transformation in character. Reaching out with a soft touch, the black-haired man gently brushes Seonwoo's face with his gloved hand. A small smile plays on Jaehwi's lips as he cherishes having someone who focuses entirely on supporting him. Inside the dream, Seonwoo Yen lets out an eek as a sudden, unexplained chill runs down his spine. His heart begins to throb painfully as a sharp warning sensation pulses through his very soul. Panicking, the gray-haired man begins to flail wildly as he races forward into the shifting dreamscape. A series of beeps sound as a system warning alerts that Seonwoo's mana has reached 0, beginning HP loss. In the physical world, Seonwoo groans with a pained gah, while Jaehwi notes how quickly his strength is fading. With a sharp pop and slosh, Jaehwi opens a mana potion, wishing a healer were there to assist him. Concerned for the boy's life, the black-haired man watches him groan, fearing the dream might become a permanent grave. Taking decisive action, Jaehwi executes a firm turn to position Seonwoo's head for the mana potion. He carefully uses a press and a soft chew sound to force the life-saving blue liquid into Seonwoo's mouth. A small dribble of blue mana liquid spills over the youth's lip as Jaehwi continues the urgent feeding. The master watches intently, his eyes fixed on the servant as he ensures every drop is consumed. Seonwoo lets out a soft gulp as Jaehwi calculates that he has bought him 30 more minutes of time. Letting out a soft pff, Jaehwi gazes at the sleeping boy and tells him he better wake up soon. Within the dream, Seonwoo's vision clears instantly, leaving him wondering if Jaehwi intervened from the outside. He continues to rush down the endless stairs, cursing the stupid stairs as his footsteps ring out with a step. The gray-haired man runs along the glowing, floating pathway suspended in the vastness of a starry galaxy. Seonwoo sprints along the curving, luminous architecture of the dreamscape, determined to find Chorok's core. Suddenly, the boy trips with a trip and begins to fall through a dark, swirling portal with a swoosh. He hits the ground with a heavy crash and kurg, spotting a mysterious light in the distance. With a determined sprint, Seonwoo Yen runs toward the light, vowing to destroy the nightmare boss once and for all. Approaching the glow, he finds a young, neglected child sitting alone in the darkness of the dream. Seonwoo witnesses a cruel memory through a doorway, where a father heartlessly demands his son be put for adoption. Reaching out to block the child's ears, Seonwoo tells him not to listen to the hateful words of his parents. The gray-haired man comforts the boy, assuring him that none of the family's nonsense is his fault. The young Chirok looks up with shimmering eyes, moved by the stranger's sudden act of kindness and protection.
a sinister man appears in the dream, telling Chorak not to let his faith waver amidst a sudden psss of energy. The man's hand reaches, wearing a creepy smile. The man claims their lord will be pleased with the child's unwavering devotion.
Seonwoo Yen interrupts the scene with a thunderous wham, delivering a flying kick straight to the man's face.
Grabbing the man, Seonwoo yells at the monster to stop exploiting the boy and demands to see the real Chorak.
He encourages the adult Chorak to clench his fists and strike back against the nightmares of his past.
The fallen man reaches out from the floor, begging Chorak to be a good child and help him.
Adult Chorak suddenly appears, looking surprised at how quickly the gray-haired man returned to help him.
A tall, black-haired man in a formal suit arrives with a steady step, fixing them with an intense gaze.
Standing within the celestial dreamscape, the black-haired Jaehwi calls out to the nearby Chorak Han. A soft, serene smile crosses Jaehwi's face as he observes his companion in the quiet of the dream. A heavy doom sounds as the dark-haired man looks away, declaring his desire to be left alone forever. Flashback narration reveals Chorak was abandoned by his parents, shown as a child wearing a desperate oxygen mask. Amidst a sharp bang and crash, flashback memories detail Jaehwi rescuing Chorak from a cult's cruel medical experiments.
Standing over defeated foes, Jaehwi offers the boy a new life, acting as the child's ultimate source of salvation.
Dark thoughts fill the void, explaining that Chorak's greatest fear is being abandoned by his savior, Jaehwi. Trapped in a loop of trauma, adult Chorak sinks into despair as the nightmare of his past repeats endlessly. A firm squeeze sounds as Seonwoo Yun grabs Jaehwi, desperately begging the man not to leave Chorak behind. With a frantic drag and turn, the gray-haired youth tries to physically stop Jaehwi from walking away. Trembling and shaking, Seonwoo yells at Chorak to fight for his bond instead of simply watching Jaehwi go. Adult Chorak sheds silent tears, deeply affected by Seonwoo's passionate insistence that he should cling to his salvation. Seonwoo continues to yell, questioning what kind of hunter would give up on their precious relationship so easily. A sudden swish sounds as Seonwoo begins to wobble, his consciousness finally starting to fade from the dream. A firm grab stops the youth mid-disappearance as someone finally reaches out to hold onto him. Holding Seonwoo Yun close, adult Chorak finally speaks up, teasingly noting that the gray-haired man is far too loud. With a playful scoff, the dark-haired hunter asks Seonwoo if he is finally done calling him a dumbass. Laughing awkwardly, Seonwoo blushes and explains that his insults were only meant to help Chorak get a grip.
In a chibi-style transition, the two discuss their location and Seonwoo's specialized skill that allowed him to enter.
With a quick whip, Seonwoo declares that they must now find a way to escape the dream world together.
The pair ponders the nature of dreams, considering if a strong emotional surge is necessary to trigger awakening. Seonwoo gets a bright idea, encouraging Chorak to use his own awakened skill to snap himself back to reality. Tilting his head, Seonwoo admits he isn't certain, but hopes Jaehwi can assist from the physical side. A sudden swoon fills the air as the dream architecture begins to dissolve into a digital blue void. System notifications confirm Seonwoo Yun's skill has deactivated and Chorak Han has successfully recovered from his magical sleep. Back in reality, Jaehwi expresses shock that Seonwoo used a high-level skill without giving him any prior warning. Seonwoo Yen opens his eyes to find the black-haired Jaehwi hovering over him in an uncomfortably close position. Against a backdrop of blooming flowers, Jaehwi holds the youth in a romantic-looking pose while dismissing the awkwardness. Seonwoo wonders if Jaehwi did something strange while he was asleep, until a low grrr sounds nearby. A sharp crack and twist sound as a monstrous hand appears, prompting Seonwoo to wonder who is growling. Emitting a fierce grrr,
A massive, muscular man with long hair and glowing red eyes radiates a murderous aura. With a thunderous vroom and crash, the berserker swings his weapon while Jaehwi warns Seonwoo to stay quiet. Executing a powerful leap, Jaehwi carries the terrified gray-haired youth away from the path of the incoming blow. A soft psss sounds as the attack misses, leaving Seonwoo to scream in terror at the total destruction. From a safe distance, the pair watches the dark silhouette of the rampaging warrior standing amidst the smoke. Jaehwi commands Seonwoo to use his imprinting skill immediately, as he is the only one who can stop him. A system window announces the imprinting command as the berserker's red eyes glare with intense, feral hatred. The frenzied warrior initially refuses to comply, his glowing red eyes clashing with the golden authority of the skill.
With a heavy thud, the berserker finally yields to the command and collapses onto his hands and knees.
Seonwoo asks why the man is still glaring, and Jaehwi explains the command is absolute, but the status remains.
Horrified, the gray-haired man realizes they must hold the warrior down until the duration of the skill expires. Letting out a weary sigh, Jaehwi observes the ruined room and prepares to find a way to help further.
Tiptoeing toward the growling beast, Seonwoo tries to soothe the massive warrior as if he were a pet. The warrior lets out a fierce grue, causing the terrified Seonwoo to eek and flinch backward in fear.
With a gentle tap of his finger, Seonwoo Yun pleads with the man to calm down and regain control.
A final thump sounds as the man's transformation ends, leaving him surrounded by a soft green glow of recovery.
The warrior lies peacefully on the floor as his intense magical energy finally begins to settle and fade.
Jaehwi explains that the awakened specialty drained the man's entire strength, but he will wake up soon enough. Surveying the rubble of the destroyed bedroom, Seonwoo remains silent while the black-haired master watches over them.
With a sly, impressed chuckle, Jaehwi tells Seonwoo Yun that he has proven to be quite useful after all.
Seonwoo Yun observes Jaehwi's unnatural calm, while a heavy sigh signals the end of their long, exhausting day.
In the grand living room, a man in a dark suit bows low to apologize to the seated Jaehwi.
The kneeling man asks about the safety of their companions, receiving a silent nod from the stoic, black-haired master.
With a quick glance, the man confirms that both he and the youth are safe, though others remain behind.
Seonwoo executes a sharp turn, feeling bitter with a ha as his heavy lifting goes completely unthanked by Jaehwi. Jaehwi questions the man's assumption of safety, revealing that Hana and Taera stayed behind to stabilize the dungeon's reset.
Letting out a weary sigh, Seonwoo acknowledges his total exhaustion after maintaining a high-level skill for far too long.
Memories of a sudden flail and crash echo as Seonwoo recalls falling through the dreamscape, wondering about Jaehwi's help.
The gray-haired youth watches the master intently, still confused by how Jaehwi managed to administer a mana potion externally. The tanned hunter departs for the dungeon entrance, leaving Seonwoo and Jaehwi alone to prepare for their next re-entry.
Jaehwi makes a sudden, startling spring, accusing Seonwoo of being distracted instead of paying attention to their critical conversation.
Chibi visions of a POW echo as Seonwoo smiles nervously, internally wishing he were strong enough to punch Jaehwi. As Jaehwi walks away, Seonwoo tries to stall the man, wanting to ask one more thing before they proceed. Looking up at the master, Seonwoo hesitates to ask his question, while Jaehwi challenges him to seek the truth.
A blue system window appears in the void, announcing that the master's mood has improved, granting an affection bonus.
Seonwoo's jaw drops in disbelief as he stares at the glowing status window floating before his wide, shocked eyes. Jaehwi performs a close lean, causing Seonwoo to fidget while teasingly asking exactly what he should stop doing so badly.
The master's smug smile deepens as another notification confirms his mood and affection are rising amidst the close encounter. With a frantic shake, Seonwoo demands to know why his master's mood is improving during such a tense, awkward moment.
Jaehwi challenges the boy with a mischievous smirk, asking if he would rather see his master's mood take a nosedive. A series of sharp ding sounds echo as 3 red warning windows declare a rapid decline in the master's affection.
Pure horror washes over Seonwoo as he witnesses the drastic, sudden drop in status on the floating game windows.
Jaehwi leans back in close, laughing at Seonwoo's shock as the youth realizes the master can manipulate his status.
The black-haired man casually admits he was testing the status system's responsiveness, leaving the gray-haired youth completely speechless.
A stunned blush covers Seonwoo's face as he realizes his master has been intentionally playing with their affection levels. Jaehwi's smile remains fixed as he informs Seonwoo that things will change now that his secret has been revealed. With a light tap to the youth's cheek, Jaehwi suggests that Seonwoo should start being much nicer to him. A visible tremble shakes the youth as he internally labels the smiling master a complete and utter crazy freak. A sharp screech and clack sound as a black car arrives at the temple grounds and Jaehwi exits decisively. Jaehwi walks with a steady step toward the shimmering dungeon entrance, his silhouette framed by the lush, green temple forest. After a clock of the car door, Seonwoo marvels at Jaehwi's effortless protagonist-like presence in front of the gate. A high-angle screech marks the arrival of more hunters as the team gathers on the paved Temple Road area.
Seonwoo executes a slight tilt, noticing another vehicle, and wondering if the hunter Chorak Han has arrived there yet.
Sudden shock freezes the boy's features as he spots an unexpected figure arriving to join their dangerous dungeon mission.
The S-rank paladin Sora Shin greets Jaehwi warmly, leaving Seonwoo starstruck to see a famous character in the flesh.
A vision of a computer screen appears, reminding Seonwoo of the immense effort he once put into playing Jaehwi.
The gray-haired youth lets out a thrilled "whoa!" genuinely excited to witness his favorite character's arrival in person. Chorak Han snaps Seonwoo out of his daze, questioning why he is staring off into space with an sound.
Looking sternly at the boy, the veteran hunter warns him that this is no ordinary C-rank dungeon environment.
The tanned man marches forward, asking Seonwoo if he has already forgotten their true purpose for entering the dungeon.
Annoyance flashes across Seonwoo's face as he prepares to argue against Chorak's dismissive and rude questioning of his role.
Sora Shin approaches with a bright, friendly smile, curious about the new boy and asking for his name directly. In a chibi flail, Seonwoo struggles to find his words while Sora Shin teasingly asks if he cannot talk. Jaehwi pulls Seonwoo into a possessive embrace, casually introducing the confused and flustered youth as his personal support hunter. Sora offers a sympathetic smile, jokingly wondering what tragic choice drove Seonwoo to work for someone like Jaehwi. Jaehwi gives a playful lift while Seonwoo laughs awkwardly, both trying to navigate the paladin's blunt assessment of him. While Jaehwi smirks nearby, Seonwoo fumes silently, internally agreeing with the fact that his situation is indeed quite tragic.
Letting out a playful pfft, Sora Shin notes that Seonwoo clearly knows about Jaehwi's notoriously terrible and difficult personality. Seonwoo joins in the laughter to ease the tension, while Jaehwi remains silent, observing their friendly interaction with interest. Finally standing firm, Seonwoo Yun introduces himself to Sora Shin, confirming his role as the team's vital support hunter. The brown-haired Sora Shin greets Seonwoo Yun with a warm, friendly smile and a welcoming hand. While shaking hands, Sora explains she is a mercenary hired by Jaehwi, and Seonwoo politely returns the greeting. A digital blue notification confirms Jaehwi Lee has invited Sora to the party as the group moves forward together. With a sudden slam sounding, Sora Shin charges forward and strikes a group of giant horned deer with her shield.
Notifications announce Sora's victory over the beasts as a fierce grack and heavy thud signal the monster's total defeat.
Letting out a powerful lift sound, Sora hauls her massive shield over her shoulder while cheerfully enjoying the hunt. A visible shudder runs through Seonwoo as he watches Sora's terrifying enthusiasm, while Chorak awkwardly turns his gaze away. Sora charges again with a sharp thwack and cruck, playfully teasing Chorak while she effortlessly demolishes more incoming monsters. Kneeling by the remains, Sora offers a mischievous grin and suggests Seonwoo might need medical help for his nerves. A violent tremble shakes Seonwoo Yan as the sheer brutality of the S-rank paladin's combat style leaves him completely horrified.
With a quick glance toward Jaehwi, Seonwoo wonders how the master manages to work with such a dangerous, unpredictable team.
Jaehwi asks what is wrong, causing Seonwoo to jolt in surprise and struggle to hide his obvious, lingering terror. In a chibi moment, Jaehwi accuses the boy of staring, while a fidgeting Seonwoo frantically tries to deny his obvious curiosity. Executing a sharp turn, Seonwoo demands proof of Jaehwi's claims while the rest of the veteran hunters watch from behind. Jaehwi leans in close to tease Seonwoo about being jealous of his ex-fiancée, prompting a loud, defensive shout from the boy. Sora and Chorak look on in confusion while Seonwoo continues to fume, demanding his master stop making up ridiculous lies. Seonwoo Yen stares back at the master with a look of feigned innocence, determined to hide his true feelings of annoyance. Jaehwi Lee offers a knowing, calm smile as he questions the boy's honesty, clearly enjoying the youth's flustered and irritated reaction. A series of sharp ding sounds echo as 3 red system windows warn that the master's mood and affection have dropped. With a heavy drop and irk sound, the horrified Seonwoo collapses under the weight of his failing relationship status with Jaehwi.
Sora Shin runs toward them to check on the situation while Jaehwi stands over the exhausted and defeated gray-haired youth. A sudden lift and cog sound as Jaehwi hoists Seonwoo over his shoulder like a sack, ignoring the boy's startled protest. Jaehwi explains he is carrying the boy because his slow speed would only hold back the team during their mission. Hanging upside down, Seonwoo looks completely miserable as Jaehwi notes that a status effect is further hindering the youth's movement. Seonwoo yells an insult at his master's back while a puzzled Sora Shin watches the strange pair continue their journey. The scene shifts to a dark, vine-covered cave entrance nestled deep within the lush, green mountains of the dungeon. Standing at the threshold, Sora argues that bringing Seonwoo inside is far too dangerous given the high-level threats ahead. The pink-haired hunter Taeyera and Hana join them, with Taeyera suggesting they should have simply left the boy outside. In a chibi interaction, the pink-haired Taeyera pinches Chorak's cheek, resulting in a pained complaint that it actually really hurts. Hana greets Sora with a rare, bright smile, causing a floating chibi Seonwoo to express shock at the woman's friendliness.
Taeyera peeks from behind the muscular Chorak, looking skeptical and questioning the reliability of their newest and weakest party member.
With a quick swip, Sora notes that while Taeyera is a gifted healer, he lacks the physical strength of their frontliners.
Sora laughs heartily as the shy Taeyera hides behind Chorak, clearly overwhelmed by the paladin's loud and boisterous personality. Approaching the blushing Taeyera, Sora Shin compliments his looks and playfully invites him to abandon Jaehwi and join her guild. Seonwoo Yen observes from his perch on Jaehwi's shoulder, noting that the pink-haired Taeyera seems incredibly nervous and on edge. A pyramid diagram illustrates the group's power dynamic, placing Sora at the top and Seonwoo at the very bottom foundation. As Jaehwi carries him, Seonwoo internally acknowledges the brutal accuracy of the power pyramid while a skull symbol appears overhead. With a sudden whoosh and oof, Jaehwi marches forward, demanding the team stop their small talk and focus on the cave.
From his uncomfortable position, Seonwoo pleads with the master to at least be a little bit more gentle while carrying him. The team treks along a winding, rocky path through a misty canyon, following Jaehwi as he leads them deeper into danger. Realizing Jaehwi won't release him, Seonwoo decides to activate a skill, causing a soft green light to emanate from his hands. A refreshing whoosh fills the air as Sora pauses to appreciate the soothing, magical energy radiating from the gray-haired youth.
With a nervous scratch of his face, Seonwoo explains the skill's purpose is merely to provide a refreshing, steady mana boost.
Impressed, Sora Shin turns toward him and calls the skill amazing, finally asking for the support hunter's name with genuine interest. Sora executes a sudden grab of Seonwoo's hands, her eyes sparkling as she asks the flustered boy to join her guild. A sharp turn and ga follow as Jaehwi pulls Seonwoo away, possessively declaring that the boy is already part of his guild. Letting out a playful ha, Sora Shin smiles knowingly and accuses Jaehwi of giving his personal support hunter very special treatment.
Sora points out Jaehwi's lack of reaction to other recruitment attempts, while Jaehwi simply states that Seonwoo is different than them.
With a cold glance, Jaehwi claims Seonwoo lacks loyalty and would betray him instantly, leaving the boy fuming in silent irritation. Seonwoo Yun stares intently at a glowing, mirrored status window as it floats before his eyes, signaling another shift in events.
With a sharp swing, Jaehwi Lee hoists the complaining Seonwoo over his shoulder while the youth lets out a pained ugh.
A soft glow and blooming flowers frame Jaehwi's face as he offers a suspiciously serene and handsome smile. The team watches the pair walk away, while the pink-haired Taira internally labels the master a complete and total nutjob. A cold, echoing wish sounds as the group ventures further into the oppressive, jagged darkness of the mountain cave.
A heavy halt marks Chorok's footsteps as he voices his doubts about the team's ability to defeat an S-rank threat.
Looking stern, the veteran hunter warns everyone to activate their awakened skills immediately within this strange and unpredictable dungeon environment. Sora Shin asks what they are discussing while Jaehwi remains focused, still carrying the miserable, limp Seonwoo Yun.
While Sora argues they already defeated the Keymaster, Jaehwi coldly suggests this entity might not be the same one.
A terrifying purple beast with glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows with a sudden, powerful vroom sound. Shock and dread freeze the hunters as they realize the true, overwhelming power of the monster looming before them. Jaehwi Lee looks on with a grim expression, quietly hoping his dark suspicions about the monster are proven wrong. Seonwoo yells at his master's back, horrified that Jaehwi knowingly brought him into such a lethally dangerous situation. The boy pleads to retreat to an easier dungeon, but Jaehwi notes that Chorok might need to go berserk again. Turning to face his support hunter, Jaehwi demands Seonwoo provide immediate magical support when the battlefield situation inevitably turns dire.
In a chibi moment, a confused Seonwoo Yun points to himself with an unsure me as questions swirl around him.
Jaehwi repeats his expectation for support while the rest of the party watches the strange dynamic between the two hunters. The pink-haired healer Taira lets out a shocked "what?" clearly stunned by the master's blunt demands for the new boy. Sora executes a quick glance toward Seonwoo, wondering if the support hunter truly has the power to calm Chorok's rage.
Taira explains that Seonwoo previously used a strange, potent skill to release him from the terrifying Nightmare Sovereign status effect.
A grainy flashback shows Seonwoo Yun desperately fighting off a dark, shadowy figure to save his teammate from a nightmare. In the memory, the gray-haired youth stands victoriously over the dissipating darkness as a wave of holy light fills the area. Chorok points out that Seonwoo also stabilized his mental state while he was using his dangerous awakened combat skill. The pink-haired Taira asks for confirmation while a stunned Seonwoo Yun awkwardly scratches his head in the background.
Sora Shen laughs with genuine delight, beaming at the embarrassed support hunter and calling his unique abilities truly amazing.
Executing a sudden swoop, Sora begs Seonwoo to join her guild while the boy offers a flat, immediate refusal.
Sora highlights her guild's kind and caring atmosphere, framed by sparkling light and flowers as she tries to entice him.
With a nervous fidget, Seonwoo explains he cannot leave because he is strictly bound by a contract to Jaehwi Lee.
Sora realizes Jaehwi must have charmed the boy, leaving Seonwoo completely puzzled by her strange and unexpected assessment. A violent crimson light erupts as a demonic shadow figure manifests in the center of a swirling, dark portal.
Jaehwi commands Sora to move into her position as they prepare for the imminent and brutal boss encounter.
Sora Shin turns back toward the team, reminding them with a laugh that even an S-rank paladin feels pain during combat. A powerful swoosh sounds as Sora activates her skill, Value of Faith, transforming into a magnificent, gold-armored Inquisitor. A heavy slam echoes as Sora Shin focuses her resolve, her eyes glowing with divine power as the battle begins.
System notifications confirm Sora's faith is worthy, activating the Unbreakable Protection skill to shield the entire party.
Kneeling in fervent prayer, the paladin Sora Shin summons a massive, glowing golden barrier to block the incoming darkness. Close up on the armored Sora as she prays to stand firm and remain bold against the encroaching demonic forces.
The Dream Demon Nightmare lunges forward with a terrifying thwoom, charging toward the paladin's glowing divine shield.
A sudden zoom follows as Jaehwi Lee activates self-sacrifice, hurtling toward the monster with his blade drawn and ready. Notifications warn that the demon's attacks are focused on Sora as it unleashes a devastating, nightmare-born scream.
A massive thram blast of energy strikes Sora's shield, creating a violent explosion of golden light and dark mana.
The scream dissipates against the barrier, forcing an irk from Sora as she struggles to hold the line. Executing a high leap, Jaehwi activates the Empyrean Blade as he prepares to strike the distracted demon from above.
A sickening crack sounds as Jaehwi Lee plunges his blade deep into the monster's shoulder, drawing dark, magical blood.
With a powerful thrust, the master drives his sword through the demon's chest while the beast lets out a pained craw.
The critically damaged monster lets out a graw scream as Jaehwi executes a quick jump back to safety.
A sharp tisk escapes Jaehwi as he warns the team to watch out for the demon's final, desperate retaliation. System windows warn that the Dream Demon has activated Recurring Nightmare, causing a dark haze to descend over the battlefield.
Jagged, golden lightning crackles through the air, creating a mana-sapping field that threatens to weaken every hunter present.
A heavy dun sounds as the team's mana bars are halved, leaving them exhausted and vulnerable to the monster's next move.
Taira turns towards Seonwoo, asking the support hunter if he truly thinks they are going to lose this desperate fight.
Seonwoo feels overwhelmed by the unreality of his situation while clutching his chest in deep thought. A quick top sounds as the pink-haired Taira offers reassurance, telling the worried Seonwoo not to worry.
With a confident smile, Taira declares they won't lose as he looks toward the upcoming battlefield.
Taira prepares his needles, noting that while the team might struggle, the master Jaehwi Lee certainly won't. A series of sharp plick sounds follow as Taira expertly throws needles into his teammates' necks to provide support. Watching Chorok execute a sudden dash, Seonwoo lets out a gulp, thankful those painful-looking needles weren't for him. Notifications confirm Chorok Han has activated his awakened specialty, summoning the power of the frenzied berserker with a whoosh. Powerful bam and wham sounds echo as the berserker relentlessly pummels the demon, preventing it from healing itself. Seonwoo cheers for Chorok's incredible strength just before a sharp crack signals another heavy blow against the beast.
The archer Hana Kim activates her awakened specialty, summoning the legendary King Dongmyang to aid the desperate fight.
With a sudden crouch and push, Hana fires a glowing arrow, unleashing her potent singular shot skill. A massive boom rings out as the divine arrow pierces the demon's chest, creating a violent explosion of light. The wounded demon lets out a pained touch as it clutches the glowing hole left in its spectral body.
A low vroom sounds as the dream demon activates lucid dream, attempting to turn the tide of battle.
The monster lets out a mocking kihei, taunting the hunters for thinking their critical damage would be enough. Rising into the air, the master Jaehwi Lee activates levitation to position himself for a final, decisive strike.
With a huff and a high leap, Jaehwi activates his secret stacking skill to maximize his blade's power. A powerful swoon echoes through the cave as Jaehwi descends toward the monster with blinding speed.
Savage slash and slosh sounds follow as Jaehwi's blade tears through the demon, spilling dark, magical ichor. The demon's severed limbs hit the floor with a heavy drop and thud, signaling the end of its resistance. Notifications confirm the demon is critically damaged and has failed to activate its lucid dream skill during the onslaught. Letting out a final, agonizing craw, the beast collapses with a heavy thump as its dark energy dissipates. Seonwoo's face lights up with excitement as he realizes the team is actually going to win this fight. With a sudden spring, Sora Shin steps forward, warning everyone to stand back as she prepares a finishing move.
System warnings appear as the Berserker refuses to comply with Chorok's imprinter commands, creating a dangerous new tension.
The Berserker lets out a low crew as it executes a menacing turn toward Jaehwi, who watches intently. A heavy thud sounds as the Berserker suddenly collapses onto the ground while the armored Sora stands guard. Sora's golden boot makes a heavy step as she moves toward the fallen monster to deliver justice. A powerful whoosh sounds as Sora executes summary judgment, declaring herself the proud victor over the world's darkness. Golden chains descend with a loud zwoosh, completely binding the dream demon and sealing its inevitable fate. A high-pitched zrr rings out as the divine chains constrict around the struggling, purple-skinned monster. Clad in her radiant golden armor, Sora descends gracefully through the air amidst a flurry of holy chains. System windows announce the demon's defeat and list a horde of rewards, including a staff and rare crafting materials. A soft swish echoes through the now empty dungeon chamber as the dust finally begins to settle. A cheerful ding sounds as a system notification congratulates Seonwoo Yun for successfully leveling up after the battle. Seonwoo stares at the floating window with wide eyes, looking both exhausted and completely stunned by his progress. Later, Seonwoo makes a weary trudge through his home, sighing as he reflects on the bizarre events of yesterday. A woman with glasses speaks on the phone, mentioning rescheduling a reservation for a hunter named Hyuno Kim. In a chibi moment, the overwhelmed Seonwoo cries tears of joy while thanking the woman for the day off. Now serious, Seonwoo requests that they stop accepting new reservations as he focuses on his personal calls. A vision of the pink-haired Tyra smiling knowingly appears, leaving Seonwoo sweating with nervous confusion. Emerging from the bathroom, Seonwoo laughs as he describes thinking a legitimate guild offer was a vishing scam. Drying his hair with a towel, the exhausted youth looks toward his bed with a quiet, weary expression. With a sudden flop, Seonwoo collapses onto his bed, finally allowing himself to relax after the harrowing dungeon raid. A small, black creature yells about abnormal freaks who broke the system, its face contorted in tiny rage. The pink-haired Tyra looks skeptical as the creature blames him and his unique specialties for ruining their original system. As Hana carries the injured teammate, the girls wonder who could have possibly created these strange awakened powers.
Jaehwi and Seonwoo listen as the creature explains about those who lend the powers of the awakened specialties.
Seonwoo lets out a wide yawn in bed, admitting he has no clue who these power-granting dudes are.
With a final swip of the blankets, Seonwoo settles in, certain his presence is tied to this interdimensional crisis. Waking up with a sudden spring, Seonwoo Yun grits his teeth in frustration atop his rumpled bed. A magical pazam sound echoes as a glowing effect surrounds the bed, signaling a shift in the environment. Arriving with a heavy plop, Seonwoo collapses onto a couch, feeling completely drained by the ongoing interdimensional chaos. When asked if he is sleeping, a visibly irritated Seonwoo offers a sharp denial while resting his head. Seonwoo struggles to control his anger while the black-haired Jaehwi Lee lets out a mocking pff laugh. With a sudden rise, Seonwoo begins to lash out at the condescending master before an unexpected guest arrives. A small black creature pops onto Seonwoo's chest with an affectionate shout, leaving the startled boy gasping.
Seonwoo offers a gentle pat to the creature while shooting a weary, tired glance toward a watching Jaehwi.
Jaehwi looms over him with crossed arms, causing Seonwoo to flinch and let out a nervous gulp.
Jaehwi explains the creature has been crying for Seonwoo non-stop, highlighting their strange and immediate bond.
Cradling the creature, Seonwoo asks for confirmation while the little monster affectionately calls him a kind human.
With a slow nod, Jaehwi agrees that the creature's high-maintenance personality is quite a lot to handle.
Seonwoo gently corrects the creature, introducing himself by his proper name rather than the kind human title.
When Seonwoo asks for its name, the creature begins a grand, boastful introduction as the legendary Keymaster. After Seonwoo asks for its actual name, the creature sinks into a purple gloom, admitting it lacks one. Close-up on the tiny black monster, focusing on the distinctive red-spotted bundle tied securely around its neck.
Struck by a sudden inspiration, a smiling Seonwoo officially decides to name the little creature Bundles.
Bundles begins to gleam and sparkle with pure joy, even after Seonwoo clarifies it is only temporary. Seonwoo offers a warm smile, promising to come up with a more proper and dignified name eventually.
From across the room, Jaehwi questions the wisdom of giving a formal name to a dangerous monster.
Seonwoo defends the choice, prompting a sarcastic Jaehwi to suggest adding an identification collar to the creature. With a joyous swoosh, Bundles flies through the air while a shocked Seonwoo watches the creature's energetic reaction. The floating Bundles celebrates its new identity with wide eyes and a beaming expression of absolute happiness. Seonwoo whispers a warning about Jaehwi's overwhelming strength, leading the curious Bundles to ask if Seonwoo is weak. Seonwoo offers a rapid nod in agreement, prompting Bundles to vow protection in exchange for receiving its name. Seonwoo awkwardly suggests that Bundles should call Jaehwi Master instead, hoping to keep the little creature safe. An icy aura surrounds Jaehwi as he realizes Bundles is being integrated into the guild's ranks as a member. Seonwoo lets out a frantic "Gya!" scream, demanding to know why Jaehwi is acting so incredibly difficult. With a frantic flail and wave of his arms, Seonwoo explains his personal living situation makes staying difficult. Bundles shoots a fearful glance back, begging Seonwoo not to leave it alone with the scary master. Jaehwi remains perfectly calm and composed, watching the chaotic duo with a faint, knowing smirk on his face. Reflecting on his system status screen, Seonwoo finally accepts the impossible truth that he is inside this world. Seonwoo seeks vital information regarding dungeon outbreaks and the mysterious existence of other dimensions from the system windows.
Visions of a brutal battle against a demonic force flash by, showcasing the intense combat and magical chains.
A close-up reveals Seonwoo's determined expression as a heavy grit of his teeth signals his new resolve.
A system window confirms a special quest has been cleared, forcing Seonwoo to face this undeniable new reality.
Taeyera, Sora, and Hana celebrate with a triumphant clap, fully embracing the victory of their recent raid.
Staring at his level 28 status, Seonwoo admits that despite the evidence, the situation still feels completely unreal.
A gray demon unleashes a terrifying grah before Jaehwi commands Seonwoo to handle the final confrontation alone.
Activating a transfer skill, a glowing green light surrounds Seonwoo's hand as he prepares to shift a status.
A heavy flop sounds as Hana carries the unconscious Chora Khan following the deactivation of his specialty.
The pink-haired Taeyera stares in disbelief, finally witnessing the true and terrifying extent of Seonwoo's unique abilities. Sora excitedly approaches Seonwoo, causing the support hunter to flinch at her sudden and intense enthusiasm. As Seonwoo scratches his head, Jaehwi moves with a quick zwip to silence Sora's loud recruitment attempts.
A tense silence falls as the narration reveals that Jaehwi and Sora were once engaged to be married.
Sora reacts with a disgusted pchewy, reminding Jaehwi of the massive personal sacrifices she made for his career.
Jaehwi counters by mentioning the political favors he returned, leaving a stunned Seonwoo caught in their domestic crossfire. Chibi versions of the group argue while Hana and Tyra move their injured teammate in the background.
Jaehwi dismisses the argument, but a dark, sinister presence interrupts him with a low and menacing growl. A terrifying scream about insolent humans erupts from the darkness, catching the entire distracted party off guard. System notifications warn that a formidable, concealed force known as the Temporary Keymaster has finally made its appearance.
Seonwoo Yun looks down in surprise, feeling a sudden, strange tugging at his leg in the quiet room.
Bundles stubbornly shakes Seonwoo's leg while calling the hunters impudent creatures for defeating its servant.
Sobbing loudly, the small monster demands to know how they dared to kill Nightmare, its faithful subject.
Seonwoo is completely baffled as Bundles continues its tearful tantrum while clinging tightly to his black pants.
Jaehwi Lee draws his sword, warning Seonwoo not to move an inch while he addresses the potential threat.
Pointing his blade at the monster, Jaehwi terrifies Bundles, making Seonwoo realize his master is far scarier. Bundles latches onto Seonwoo's shoulder, boastfully claiming its lineage from Typhon, despite its obvious trembling fear. Seonwoo mentions the creature has clearly already succumbed to fear while it continues to tug frantically at him.
Jaehwi warns the monster it has a death wish as Seonwoo tries to hold back the tense confrontation. Seonwoo questions if this small, flailing thing is actually the legendary Keymaster they were warned about earlier.
Bundles confirms its royal lineage while the armored Sora Shen and pink-haired Taeyera watch with deep skepticism.
Seonwoo holds the wailing monster as Jaehwi watches the display of weakness with a cold, unimpressed expression.
The scene shifts to the tranquil Chunyong Park at night, offering a brief transition from the previous dungeon chaos.
Seonwoo continues to interrogate Bundles, asking for final confirmation regarding its identity as the interdimensional Keymaster. Held by its red-spotted scarf, Bundles claims it was called to destroy this world as Typhon's descendant. Jaehwi scoffs and threatens to kill the creature before it can act, causing Bundles to shudder in fear. Seonwoo offers a quick glance toward his teammates, noting how weak and harmless the creature actually appears.
Sora, the pink-haired Taeyera, and Hana maintain intense glares, perhaps recalling more dangerous encounters with previous Keymasters. Bundles warns that its death would bring regret, prompting a calm and curious question from Jaehwi.
Bundles explains that the inheritor is unready, and its death would trigger immediate outbreaks across its zones. Seonwoo and Sora listen in shock as the creature describes the catastrophic consequences of its premature demise. Jaehwi glares with red-tinted intensity, repeating the creature's claim about every zone while holding it firmly.
A nervous gulp from the pink-haired Taeyera highlights the tension as they imagine the world without a controller.
Seonwoo realizes Bundles is part of a plan to downsize this dimension through massive monster outbreaks.
A vision of a demonic claw reaching through a dimensional rift illustrates the terrifying purpose behind the Keymaster. Countless monsters swarm over a modern city in a vision of the destruction the outbreaks would eventually cause.
Seonwoo wears a knowing grin as he contemplates the valuable information and hints he can extract from bundles.
Held up by its scarf, the tiny black monster looks incredibly sad, its large eyes reflecting deep sorrow.
With a quick swip, Seonwoo takes the creature back, laughing awkwardly while a confused Jaehwi watches him.
Seonwoo defends the poor thing, arguing its lack of strength makes it harmless, though Jaehwi remains highly skeptical.
Bundles offers several friendly nudges against Seonwoo's leg, seemingly grateful for his sudden protective stance. It explains its temporary status means it lacks the power to open gates until a new Keymaster arrives.
Seonwoo nods thoughtfully, accepting the explanation that Bundles is essentially an underdeveloped child in its species. Jaehwi asks if a new Keymaster's arrival will trigger more outbreaks, which Bundles immediately confirms. With a sudden tap, Jaehwi pets the creature's head, cutting off its boastful sentence with a silent gesture.
Jaehwi wears a dark, satisfied grin, deciding to keep the creature close to prepare for the future threat.
Seonwoo looks relieved while Bundle's glowing eye stares out from the shadows in a moment of mystery.
Seonwoo reflects on a system screen describing how players can form bonds regardless of gender in this world. He remembers focusing on Sora Shin while playing his game on a computer late at night yesterday.
A memory reveals a system notification announcing an increased affection level between Jaehwi Lee and Choro Khan.
Seonwoo is startled to find a shirtless Jaehwi relaxing in a luxurious bed, inviting him to join him. Feeling overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, Seonwoo offers a frantic squeeze to the tiny black monster.
Bundle's eyes gleam with pure joy as it basks in the attention from its kind human protector. Seonwoo laughs nervously while Bundles tells him to look after his own hide during this strange night.
Standing in the bedroom, Seonwoo asks if they must share a bed instead of him using a blanket.
Jaehwi offers a sharp grit of his teeth, refusing to leave Seonwoo alone with the potentially dangerous creature. Jaehwi warns about the consequences if Bundles escapes, his gaze remaining cold and authoritative toward the boy.
With a sudden plop, Seonwoo tosses Bundles onto the bed while resigned to staying there for the night. Letting out a tired ha, Seonwoo finally settles into bed while the little monster sleeps soundly beside him.
Seonwoo wakes up in a luxurious bed, startled to find Bundles sleeping soundly between him and a slumbering Jaehwi Lee.
Looking at his companion, the brown-haired boy hesitantly asks if he should use a skill during this quiet morning. Seonwoo offers a polite goodnight to Mr. Lee before pulling the covers tight, clearly still feeling quite awkward. The vast, dimly lit bedroom remains peaceful as the two hunters and their small companion rest through the night. Half asleep, Seonwoo lets out a soft sigh, blushing as he finds the warmth of the bed incredibly comforting. A sudden fumble sounding, Seonwoo's hand reaches out in a daze, his fingers feeling the solid muscle of Jaehwi's chest. A heavy doo-dun pulses as Seonwoo realizes he is snuggled right against Jaehwi while Bundles watches them curiously. Panic sets in as Seonwoo fully awakens, his eyes widening in horror at being wrapped tightly in Jaehwi's arms. Despite his shock, Seonwoo can't help but notice Jaehwi's prominent nose and surprisingly long eyelashes while he remains asleep. Gazing at the man's face, the boy admits to himself that he always knew Jaehwi was handsome, but this is different. With a sudden jolt, Seonwoo frantically pushes away, shouting a loud rejection of the intimate situation he found himself in. A quick spring and fling follow as the commotion wakes Jaehwi, who grumpily demands silence while Bundles flies through the air. Seonwoo demands to know why Jaehwi is in his bed, only for the man to coolly state they are in his room. When Seonwoo mentions his host's insomnia, Jaehwi responds with a sharp glare that immediately silences the boy's line of questioning.
A heavy gulp sounds from the tiny, chibi-style Seonwoo as he hides under the covers from Jaehwi's intimidating presence.
Jaehwi explains his irregular sleeping patterns, challenging Seonwoo to find a problem with him finally getting some much-needed rest.
Trying to break the tension, Seonwoo realizes his stomach is empty and suggests they all have some breakfast together.
A loud zoom echoes as Seonwoo bolts for the kitchen, leaving a crying Bundles scrambling to keep up with him.
A magnificent spread of traditional Korean dishes fills the table, steam rising from the fresh soup and grilled fish.
Seonwoo marvels at the perfectly organized refrigerator while questioning his own sudden impulse to prepare such an elaborate morning meal.
With a quick pot against the table, the cheerful boy invites everyone to sit down and enjoy the hot breakfast.
Jaehwi appears shirtless, showcasing his powerful physique, leaving a flustered Seonwoo wondering why the man is being so distracting.
Seonwoo nervously suggests that Jaehwi should put on some clothes to avoid catching a cold, prompting a curious tilt.
A series of steps sound as Jaehwi walks away, teasingly suggesting that Seonwoo must simply like him a lot. A quick flutter sounds from the hungry Bundles as Seonwoo stands alone, reflecting on his master's completely unpredictable personality.
Bundles gazes up with massive eyes, asking if the kind human is going to provide it with arcane energy.
Seonwoo is confused by the request, asking if the creature means mana, while Bundles offers an enthusiastic, "Yep."
Letting out a tired sigh, Seonwoo explains that he is far too weak to provide any energy for the monster.
Bundles lets out a pitiful sniffle, its eyes becoming watery as it puts on an incredibly sad and manipulative face.
Seonwoo finds it ridiculous that such a mana-draining creature can make such an adorable face to get what it wants.
A sudden swish and clatter interrupt as a system window announces that Jaehwi Lee has activated his bind skill.
A loud whoosh and thud signaled the arrival of purple magical chains that instantly wrap around the startled monster.
Bundles begins a frantic flail and struggle on the floor, unable to break free from the powerful binding magic.
A quick turn reveals Jaehwi in a dark robe, warning Seonwoo to stop treating the dangerous keymaster like a pet.
Jaehwi's expression remains cold and authoritative as he reminds the boy of the true nature of the creature they captured.
The group finally settles at the table, with the bound Bundles sitting grumpily beside a still confused Seonwoo.
Jaehwi calmly enjoys his meal, seemingly unfazed by the chaotic events of the morning or the creature's restricted state.
Watching the man eat, Seonwoo contemplates how impossible it is to predict what Jaehwi will do from one moment to next. A soft jump sounds as Seonwoo picks up the monster, feeling a twinge of guilt for its obviously scared state. The boy offers a piece of breakfast meat to Bundles, hoping to comfort the creature, despite Jaehwi's stern earlier warnings. A gentle pat-pat sounds as Bundles happily reveals it already ate mana directly from Mr. Jaehwi's binding skill.
As Jaehwi drinks, Seonwoo realizes the man did a complete 180 by intentionally sharing his mana with the little monster. Bundles calls out to Seonwoo, while the boy remains stunned by his master's unexpected act of practical kindness.
The tiny creature gleefully eats a piece of ham, declaring the human food to be absolutely delicious with sparkly eyes.
A sudden halt sounds as Seonwoo tries to offer more food, only to be stopped by the monster's voracious appetite.
A rhythmic nom-nom follows as Bundles devours everything in sight, leaving Seonwoo baffled by its sudden burst of energy.
Jaehwi watches the pair with crossed arms, causing Seonwoo to worry that another round of nagging is about to begin.
Seonwoo asks about returning the raid gear, but Jaehwi tells him to keep it for their future dungeon expeditions.
A system window displays the rewards from their battle, including Nightmare's Horn, Heart, and a mysterious glowing collector's orb. Jaehwi activates his special Identify skill,
hoping to uncover the true purpose of the strange, non-weapon item they obtained. Jaehwi stands shirtless under his dark robe, focusing his identifying skill on the glowing blue memory orb. Seonwoo asks about the item's nature while Bundles floats nearby, happily eating a piece of meat. Jaehwi explains the orb is a materialized form of memories gathered by the nightmare demon they defeated. As Jaehwi continues his explanation, Seonwoo suddenly remembers seeing the orb in the demon's possession earlier. Bundles excitedly confirms the sphere was a toy the nightmare demon used to create terrifying nightmare visions. A memory flashes of the red nightmare demon chuckling while playing with the glowing, powerful memory orb. Seonwoo is horrified that the monster treated people's precious memories like toys to generate nightmare scenarios. A vision reveals a young boy sitting alone in a dark, desolate room, looking utterly despondent. With a sudden, loud smash sounding, the vision shatters, and a startled Seonwoo hears Jaehwi calling his name. A system screen announces that Seonwoo Yun has used the collector's orb to read the stored memories. A sudden, unsteady wobble sounding, Seonwoo struggles with the mental strain, prompting Jaehwi to catch his shoulders. A loud clatter sounds as Bundles struggles against its chains, while Jaehwi checks if Seonwoo is all right.
Seonwoo lets out a soft, tired droop sounding as he begins to recover from the foreign memory flow.
A flashback shows a gray-haired hunter wielding a sword during a desperate battle against the red monster.
A heavy metallic clang sounds as the hunter is struck down during the brutal fight with the demon.
A heavy, dull plop sounds as the defeated warrior falls to the floor, his sword landing beside him. A sudden, sharp jolt sounding, Seonwoo snaps back to reality with a gasp, sweat dripping down his face.
Jaehwi holds Seonwoo protectively as the boy wonders what just happened during the intense, overwhelming memory flow.
Jaehwi demands to know what the boy did while a loud drag sounds from Bundles' magical chains.
Leaning against Jaehwi, Seonwoo realizes Bundles was right about the terrifying and dangerous nature of the collector's orb.
Jaehwi releases him with a quick toss sounding, while Seonwoo explains he was just shocked by someone's memory. Looking at the orb on the floor, Jaehwi questions the purpose of the newly generated memory item.
With a quick, firm grab sounding, Seonwoo retrieves the orb that now contains his own materialized memories.
Bundles explains that the orb will now collect every one of Seonwoo's memories until he eventually dies.
Seonwoo gazes at the orb in his hand, processing the weight of carrying his entire life story.
A system notification warns that the collector's orb can only be stored during the initial acquisition phase.
Seonwoo opens his inventory screen and is confused to find he cannot store the precious memory orb.
Realizing the system's limitation, Seonwoo explains he missed the chance to put the orb in his inventory.
Seonwoo laments the timing, while Jaehwi offers to store the memory orb for the increasingly flustered boy.
A quick, sharp whip sounding, Seonwoo refuses, insisting on keeping his own memories despite Jaehwi's obvious skepticism. Red warning screens announce that Jaehwi's mood has declined, significantly lowering his affection toward the boy.
Jaehwi wears a deceptively handsome and sparkly smile, radiating an aura that makes Seonwoo feel incredibly uneasy.
A heavy, sudden plop sounds as Seonwoo collapses to his knees, his body trembling from overwhelming pressure. Jaehwi looms over him, coolly suggesting that it would be best to leave the orb in his care.
Seonwoo desperately rejects the demand, determined to take the item home and put it somewhere truly secure.
Chibi heads depict a conversation where Jaehwi reveals Seonwoo will be living with him very soon.
Jaehwi points out that Seonwoo even named the creature, questioning why he would plan to leave now. System warnings announce a drop in affection status, activating a melancholy effect that disables Seonwoo's skills. Jaehwi smiles warmly while asking if Seonwoo really doesn't want to live in his luxurious house. A series of shudders run through the boy's body as he struggles to resist the man's intense presence.
Jaehwi leans in close, his physical proximity overwhelming Seonwoo, who continues to clutch the glowing orb. Seonwoo's expression is one of distress as he realizes his life is becoming increasingly complicated and difficult.
A repeating, sharp ding sounds from red windows, warning that the master's mood is plummeting towards -5.
A sudden wobble sounding, followed by a slip. Seonwoo nearly drops the orb from his trembling hand.
A heavy, dull flop sounds as Seonwoo hits the floor, calling Jaehwi a devil for his behavior.
Seonwoo's face is deeply flushed as he clenches his fist, fighting against his own intense physical reaction.
Letting out a pained groan, Seonwoo wonders about the terrifying consequences if he dares to say no.
A sharp final ding sounding. A system warning announces the melancholy effect is replaced by an aroused status. A heavy, sudden thump sounds as Seonwoo collapses completely, begging the man to wait while he breathes. A firm, tight clench sounding, Seonwoo lets out a pained groan, his face deeply blushed from total frustration.
Jaehwi wears a mocking smirk as Seonwoo realizes the man is a total psycho playing dangerous games.
A heavy, tight grit sounding, Seonwoo clenches his teeth, frustrated by the man's complete lack of seriousness. Surrounded by shimmering flowers, a submissive Seonwoo offers the glowing memory orb to his muscular and unimpressed master.
Seonwoo decides to put on a fake smile and lie low to satisfy the man's increasingly demanding whims.
Multiple dings sound as system windows announce an improvement in mood, despite a significant drop in overall affection. Seonwoo is visibly shocked when the status only increases by a single point following his humiliating act of submission.
With a quick, firm grab sounding, Jaehwi takes the orb while officially declaring his home to be Seonwoo's now.
Trembling on the floor, Seonwoo mutters Jaehwi's name while blushing from the overwhelming physical and mental pressure.
Jaehwi casually checks a floating system screen while a defeated Seonwoo admits his deep hatred for the arrogant man.
The scene shifts to a formal meeting room where the group discusses reports of monster sightings in Moledong. Taeyera questions the decision to raise the creature, prompting Bundles to demand respect from the pink-haired human.
A loud, sharp yell sounding. Taeyera is offended by the creature's nickname, while Bundles confirms its intentional insult.
Letting out a tired sigh, Taeyera expresses his annoyance with Bundles' name while adjusting his many silver earrings. With a quick turn sounding, Seonwoo reveals that the guildmaster actually suggested the little monster's name to everyone.
Startled, Seonwoo defends the name, explaining he had to come up with something for his new charge.
Dojin stares skeptically, questioning why anyone would bother naming a monster or trying to make friends with it. Seonwoo challenges the logic, asking Dojin what would be so wrong about forming a bond with the creature. Bundles gazes up at Seonwoo with wide, watery eyes, seemingly touched by the boy's protective and kind stance.
A gentle, rhythmic pot-pot sounding, Seonwoo comforts the monster while reflecting on Jaehwi's earlier warnings about it.
Dojin asks about their sudden casual rapport, leading to an argument over Seonwoo's supposedly disrespectful tone during battle.
Hana politely asks for Seonwoo's age, and he reveals he is turning 29, making him the oldest present.
A sudden, heavy dun-dun sounding. Taeyera mocks Seonwoo's low level despite his age, calling him a baby. Hana defends Seonwoo as a new guild member, firmly ordering Taeyera to address the man with proper respect.
Sparkles surround a delighted Seonwoo as he praises Hana for being the only sane member of the guild.
A heavy, silent stare sounding. Dojin and Jaehwi watch the boy's dramatic reaction with complete and cold indifference.
Wearing a handsome, sparkly smile, Jaehwi mockingly offers to treat Seonwoo like an older brother to satisfy him.
A series of quick, frantic shakes sounding. Seonwoo rejects the offer, terrified by the man's predatory smile.
With a sudden, energetic spring sounding, Seonwoo interrupts Jaehwi's demand to be called by a specific title.
Standing up, Seonwoo argues that he doesn't belong in the meeting since he only followed them by accident.
Looking down at Bundles, Seonwoo is worn down by the creature's constant emotional demands and pathetic watery eyes. Taeyera runs a hand through his pink hair, asking about the plan for the newly appeared Keymaster threat. A rhythmic, soft tap-tap sounding, Jaehwi suggests waiting while considering a potential alliance with other rival guilds. Taeyera points out their lack of allies, a sentiment Seonwoo silently agrees with from his seat on the sidelines. A vision of powerful hunters appears, illustrating the elite status and isolation of the Radish Guild's main members. A system window explains that the guild's immense pride and status naturally cause friction with other organizations. Seonwoo reflects on the guild's reputation as unloved tyrants who are intentionally avoided by everyone else in society.
Jaehwi tasks Taeyera with handling the difficult negotiations, much to the pink-haired man's vocal and visible distress.
A heavy, metallic rattle sounding, Jaehwi dismisses the group, closing his tablet to officially end the session. As the others drag a complaining Taeyera away, Jaehwi commands Seonwoo to stay behind for a private talk. Handing over a folder, Jaehwi instructs Seonwoo to review documents regarding dungeons and the nature of dimensions. Jaehwi explains these are just the beginning of the data he is collecting on the boy's earlier request. A quick, crisp flip sounding, Seonwoo opens the folder to find it filled with extremely dense technical information. A sudden, dark seethe sounding. Seonwoo is overwhelmed and angry at the complexity of the documents he received. Seonwoo clutches his head in frustration, struggling to process the mountain of data his master provided for him. Confused by the symbols, the boy realizes his math knowledge stops at basic quadratic functions from his school days. A heavy, silent stare sounding. Seonwoo remains frozen while looking at the incomprehensible equations on the white paper. A series of frantic, panicked shakes sounding. Seonwoo trembles while Jaehwi questions his sudden and awkward silence. Jaehwi explains the theory is based on international reports, making the material even more daunting for the boy.
A quick, crisp flip sounding, Seonwoo searches for anything he might actually understand within the technical pages.
Pointing to complex math, Jaehwi notes that quantum physics and Friedman equations are necessary for understanding multiverse theory. Overwhelmed by incomprehensible Friedman equations, Seonwoo stands frozen as complex math symbols float mockingly around his dazed head. Jaehwi crosses his arms, surprised the boy requested data he cannot understand, while Seonwoo promises to study the documents. A heavy, dull flop sounds as Seonwoo collapses onto the desk, completely defeated by the mountain of technical information. Staring at the dense charts and diagrams, Seonwoo laments that the reality of the situation is much worse than expected. Lying motionless on the table, Seonwoo feels like he is facing a sky-high wall until someone calls out his name. Bundles floats nearby, holding a phone and curiously asking if the boy is crying, prompting a quick defensive denial. A gentle, rhythmic pat-pat sounding, Seonwoo comforts the little monster who kindly offers to research the difficult terms.
Exhaling a tired sigh, Seonwoo admits he needs a break while Bundles encourages him to remain strong despite his exhaustion. Seonwoo is confused when Bundles uses gaming slang to describe his fragile status, explaining that marksman characters are famously squishy.
A rapid, rhythmic top-click-top sounding. Bundles types furiously on the computer, ignoring Seonwoo's angry demands to stop playing. Determined to keep playing, Bundles ignores the boy's threat to place a password lock on the study's computer. A sudden, sharp whip sounding, Bundles reacts with shock, arguing that the computer actually belongs to the master, Jaehwi.
A series of energetic flails sounding, Seonwoo pinches Bundles' cheeks, feeling like he's stuck raising a demanding, disobedient child.
A sudden, sharp jolt sounding. Seonwoo is startled when he senses someone entering the room while he's handling the creature.
A quick, firm pull sounding, Seonwoo tries to hide his surprise as he reacts to the unexpected visitor.
Startled and annoyed, Seonwoo demands to know why the visitor didn't knock, holding bundles close to his chest.
A soft, rhythmic tap sounding. Chorok explains he isn't there for Jaehwi, while Seonwoo notes the master is away.
A sudden, firm shove sounding. Chorok thrusts a bag of food at the boy, bluntly ordering him to eat it. Peeking into the bag, Seonwoo and Bundles are surprised to find a collection of expensive-looking fruit-filled pastries.
Shimmering with light, the bag reveals several decadent croissants topped with fresh strawberries, blueberries, and green grapes.
Seonwoo checks his phone and is shocked to find the exact same luxury pastries featured on a popular social media post.
Excited, Seonwoo explains the pastries are famous, while a delighted Bundles expresses his desire to try the delicious treats too. Holding the bag, Seonwoo wonders how the stoic Chorok knew he wanted these specific snacks from the social media post. A soft, knowing, puffed sounding. Chorok smirks to himself as he walks away, leaving Seonwoo feeling confused by his behavior.
Seonwoo remains perplexed, questioning the meaning behind the man's rare smirk while clutching the gift.
Seonwoo peekaboos into the office, greeting the black-haired woman with glasses as she works diligently at her desk.
With a bright smile, Seonwoo asks to join the staff for a moment, and the woman warmly welcomes him inside.
Sitting at a round table, Seonwoo prepares to share the expensive pastries with the black-haired woman and her colleagues. Laughing cheerfully, Seonwoo explains that Chorok gave him too many snacks to eat alone, so he brought them to share. The staff members are frozen in shock, questioning Seonwoo's claim, while the boy wonders if he said something wrong. Deeply touched, the black-haired man considers treasuring the rare gift forever, while Seonwoo realizes Chorok must be notoriously stingy. Seonwoo laughs heartily at the man's dramatic reaction, finding the staff's overwhelming appreciation for the snacks quite amusing. Surrounding by sparkles, the staff member admits his jealousy, noting that the usually cold Chorok never buys snacks for anyone. Surrounded by flowers, the group discusses Seonwoo's unique closeness with the guild's elites, noting the vast difference in their personalities.
A quick, dismissive wave sounding, Seonwoo denies being close to Jaehwi, insisting he's just acting as the master's support.
A gentle, rhythmic nod sounding. The black-haired woman agrees that Jaehwi's constant media presence makes him feel like a celebrity. Sparkles surround a vision of Tyra as the staff member gushes over the pink-haired hunter's blindingly handsome and legendary looks. The woman hands Seonwoo a tissue while they joke that the elite hunter's intense beauty could practically be lethal. As Seonwoo wipes his face, the staff mentions the constant romance gossip that follows the handsome guildmaster every single month.
The group discusses Jaehwi's past with a hunter named Shin, noting that new rumors about a current relationship are already spreading.
Seonwoo's expression shifts to one of pure shock as he listens to the scandalous gossip about his master's love life. The boy is stunned to learn that Jaehwi is reportedly dating a man for the first time in his life.
A heavy, expectant silence falls over the room as the woman wonders if a secret boyfriend caused Jaehwi's broken engagement.
A sudden, loud swing sounding, a blonde woman bursts into the lounge, shouting that she has major news for everyone.
Seonwoo and the staff members gape in horror, their expressions turning pale as the gossip session is interrupted by chaos.
A loud, chaotic chatter murmur sounding. A massive crowd of reporters and cameras swarms the lobby of the building. Looking down from the lounge, the group observes the frantic scene as the media frenzy begins to unfold below them. A series of repetitive, sharp buzz sounding. Seonwoo watches the paparazzi mess, questioning if the rumor is really such a scoop. The staff members gossip about the identity of Jaehwi's rumored lover, wondering if the man in question is a famous actor. Shimmering with a handsome aura, a silver-haired man checks his phone, seemingly unaware of the media storm surrounding his presence.
Checking his phone, the silver-haired man remains oblivious as staff whisper about seeing the famous actor on television. Seonwoo's eyes widen in realization as he recognizes the celebrity standing in the middle of the guild lobby.
A rhythmic, soft step sounding.
Taeyera and Han escort the famous Yoon Kim through the building's security gates.
Yoon Kim sits with poise on the sofa, causing the staff to admire the calm aura of a professional.
A rhythmic, soft step sounding, Seonwoo panics as he sees the stoic Chorak approaching the gossip-filled staff table.
A sudden, sharp flinch sounding, Seonwoo recoils as Chorak looms over him, demanding an explanation for his presence there.
Chorak stands with his arms crossed, his silent and stern expression putting the entire group on edge.
The black-haired man scolds Seonwoo for slacking off, noting the boy's misplaced confidence during official working hours.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounding, the staff is frozen in fear as Chorak orders everyone back to their desks.
Pointing toward the sofa, Seonwoo wonders if the guildmaster is specifically coming to meet the famous silver-haired guest.
Taeyera and Yoon Kim wait in the lobby while Chorak maintains a silent, watchful vigil over the elite hunters.
Choruk bluntness startles Seonwoo as he begins guiding the protesting boy back toward the guild's private office.
A sudden, sharp wait sounding, Seonwoo senses that something interesting is about to happen between the waiting hunters.
A sudden, firm clutch sounding, Chorak grabs the boy's arm, ignoring his frantic pleas to slow down their pace. Bundles happily munches on a fruit pastry, unaware that Seonwoo is terrified of the creature being discovered by guests. A gentle, rhythmic nod sounding, Chorak acknowledges the situation while Seonwoo remains tense about his hidden companion. A sudden, rapid dash zoom sounding, the two men sprint through the hallway toward the master's private study. A sudden, loud slam sounding, Chorak bursts into the room with a huffing and exhausted Seonwoo following closely behind.
Taeyera looks over his shoulder and asks who the newcomers are, interrupting the meeting between the elite guild members.
Bundles lets out a nervous, high-pitched laugh while sitting on the desk, hoping he won't be noticed by Taeyera.
A rhythmic, soft step sounding, Seonwoo rubs his head awkwardly while apologizing for barging in on the guest. Seonwoo holds Bundles tightly while Taeyera and Yoon Kim engage in a tense, dismissive argument over the boy's identity. A soft, pathetic sob sounding, Bundles cries in Seonwoo's arms as the boy notes Taeyera's exceptionally crabby mood today. Taeyera laughs mockingly, pointing out that the silver-haired actor acts like he owns the office he just entered.
Ignoring the pink-haired man's insults, Yoon Kim calmly asks when Jaehwi is expected to arrive for their meeting.
A sudden, quiet sneak sounding, Seonwoo tries to move out of the silver-haired man's line of sight without being seen. A sudden, sharp flinch sounding, Seonwoo is startled when Yoon Kim complains about people testing his patience today. Taeyera's expression turns cold and icy as he admits that playing nice is an exhausting and unnatural task. A soft, nervous gulp sounding, Seonwoo decides it is best to leave the room before the atmosphere turns violent. A soft, rhythmic creak sounding, Seonwoo backs away with a fake smile, offering to give the hunters some space. A sudden, rapid rush sounding, Seonwoo hurries out of the office while clutching Bundles close to his chest. A soft, muffled hup sounding, Seonwoo hushes the creature, warning him that they cannot afford to be discovered. Seonwoo checks on Bundles, making sure the little monster stayed hidden and wasn't spotted by the elite guild members. A gentle, rhythmic pat-pat sounding, Seonwoo comforts the creature, asking him to wait quietly just a little longer. A soft, warm hug snuggles into the boy's hand, happily agreeing to remain quiet as instructed.
Seonwoo wonders if the silver-haired gust is a relative of Jaehwi, noting the similar intensity in their gazes.
A series of energetic shakes sounding, the boy dismisses his theory, believing it's impossible for someone to be as bad. Chorak glances toward the door, announcing that the guildmaster has finally arrived to begin the official discussion. From an overhead view, the four men sit around the table, the atmosphere thick with professional tension and unspoken rivalries. A heavy, metallic rattle sounding,
Seonwoo laments being dragged back into the room's freezing and uncomfortable environment.
A quick, crisp clink sounding, Yoon Kim sets down his cup while acknowledging that his unannounced visit was disruptive.
Jaehwi smiles over his tea, admitting he hasn't felt such an interesting spark of tension in quite some time. Hiding behind a folder, Seonwoo wishes he could simply become an invisible prop that no one would notice. Jaehwi takes a sip of his drink, bluntness questioning if the silver-haired actor is searching for a suitable partner. Tyra insults the guest as a nosy rodent, but the silver-haired man firmly warns the pink-haired hunter to watch. Jaehwi reminds Yoon Kim that the guild members are not the ones who barged into the office without an invitation. Hiding his face behind the documents, Seonwoo curses Chorak for forcing him to witness this awkward and intense confrontation. A sharp, tense grit sounding, Yoon Kim's jaw tightens as he tries to maintain his composure under Jaehwi's gaze. Yoon Kim makes a bold offer, confidently asserting that Jaehwi will find no better partner than himself. Jaehwi smirks as he reveals that the partner he discussed with the CEO was definitely not Yoon Kim. Jaehwi looks down with a mocking smirk, confidently asserting his superior position over his rival. Under a Happy New Year banner, the guild's elite hunters share a quiet, smoky moment in the winter chill. Within the dungeon's depths, the pink-haired Tyra stares in wide-eyed shock as a dangerous threat suddenly emerges.
Tara watches in horror as Seonwoo is caught in the path of a lethal, incoming attack.
A wet, heavy slosh sounding. Blood splatters as a sharp weapon pierces through its target during the chaotic skirmish.
A system window announces that Chorak Han has unleashed a devastating straight slash to defeat a mermaid soldier.
A sudden, sharp whip sounding. Chorak turns in confusion, demanding to know what caused the sudden turn of events. Standing in the glowing blue water, Tyra remains paralyzed by the overwhelming intensity of the recent confrontation. A soft, pained coo sounding. Tyra stumbles while a sudden, sharp turn sounding as he struggles to maintain his footing.
A sharp, rhythmic ding sounding. A red system warning flashes, indicating Tyra's health has dropped to a critical level.
Surrounded by shadows, a voice questions why they stepped into danger, pondering their own impulsive, life-saving actions. A sudden, sharp jolt sounding. A desperate shout echoes through the water, urging Tyra to pull himself together. A sudden, firm grab sounding. Tyra is caught just in time as his unique awakening specialty begins to activate. A sudden, loud swoosh sounding. Seonwoo activates a powerful regeneration technique to heal his injured teammate in the water. A soft, rhythmic swirr sounding. A brilliant light envelops the two men as the divine doctor's healing magic takes effect. A sharp, tense grit sounding. Tyra clenches his teeth, his expression filled with a mix of pain and frustration. A sudden, loud whoosh sounding. Chorak swings his massive sword, determined to clear the path and reach the passage. Confirming the plan, the hunters prepare to move forward as the healing process nears its successful conclusion. A system notification confirms that Seonwoo has been fully healed and is no longer incapacitated after the brutal fight. Amidst a flurry of action sounds, Seonwoo completes a hidden quest, unlocking the legendary savior of the tormented specialty. A series of soft, wet step and plop sounding. The weary group trudges through the dark, crystal-filled cavern. A sudden, rhythmic step sounding. Seonwoo asks to be put down as Tara carries him through the cave. Looking away, Seonwoo insists he is fine now, though a soft step sounding highlights the lingering tension. A sudden, sharp glance and whip sounding. Han and Chorak turn to check on their companions following the battle. Seonwoo tells Tara he can walk on his own, trying to lighten the heavy mood between them. Tyra stares in silence, his expression unreadable as he processes the boy's selfless actions during the attack.
A sudden, sharp turn and nod sounding. Taira acknowledges Chorok's silent gesture as the group continues their trek. A sudden, sharp turn sounding. Chorok leads the way, suggesting the group increase their speed to finish the mission. A sudden, quiet glance sounding. Han looks back one last time, observing the complex dynamic between the two hunters. A series of sharp step and dash sounding. The team hurries deeper into the cavern, leaving the battlefield behind. Taira suddenly stops, his gaze fixed on Seonwoo as he asks why the boy risked everything for him. Frustrated and emotional, Taira runs a hand through his hair, demanding an honest answer for the boy's recklessness. A heavy silence falls as Seonwoo looks down, the weight of the question hanging in the cold cave air. A sudden, sharp jolt sounding. Seonwoo explains that his body moved instinctively, lunging forward before he could even think. Taira softens his gaze, offering a quiet apology for causing so much worry during the dangerous encounter. Seonwoo reiterates that he doesn't hate the pink-haired man, urging him to stop being so angry and defensive. Startled by the boy's directness, Taira begins to protest, his tough exterior finally starting to crack. A sudden, sharp turn sounding. Taira mumbles the word mad to himself, seemingly flustered by Seonwoo's blunt observation. Looking regretful, Seonwoo apologizes for letting his guard down, acknowledging that he should have been more careful. A sudden, quick twitch sounding. Seonwoo hides a small smile, finding the elite hunter's serious demeanor surprisingly amusing. Taira warns Seonwoo to never use that painful awakening skill again unless it is absolutely the last resort. In a comical outburst, Seonwoo shouts that the healing skill actually hurt more than being stabbed by the spear. Recalling the agonizing sensation, Seonwoo grumbles while Taira sighs, realizing the high cost of the boy's magical gift. Taira tells Seonwoo to stay unharmed as another reason to avoid using the skill, maintaining his protective stance. A sudden warm blush sounding, Taira turns away quickly, ending the conversation to hide his growing embarrassment. Reasserting his pride, Taira yells at Seonwoo to not get the wrong ideas about his sudden concern. A soft, amused pft sounding, Seonwoo teases the hunter for being defensive, finding his reaction quite transparent. A sudden, rapid rush sounding, Taira tells the boy not to push his luck as they catch up. The scene shifts to the crystalline structures of the cave, shimmering with a mysterious and cold energy. Checking a digital map, Chorok announces that they have almost reached their destination at the end of the passage. Seonwoo realizes they have reached the boss level as he enters the grand pillar-filled chamber. A system window displays Seonwoo's updated level 59 stats and his new specialty, Savior of the Tormented.
The brown-haired boy realizes his recent vision was not a dream now that his awakened specialty is unlocked.
Seonwoo's eyes widen in alarm as he continues to scan the new information within the floating system window. Seonwoo is horrified to find a one-time use skill called Great Sacrifice that requires his own life to work. Disturbed by the deadly skill, Seonwoo quickly swipes the window away to hide the information from Jaehwi. A sudden, quick zwip sounding, Seonwoo laughs nervously while Taira asks if something is wrong with the boy. A heavy, sudden halt sounding. The group stops in their tracks as they encounter a new threat ahead. A system notification announces the arrival of a B-rank mermaid princess within the crystalline, coral-adorned ruins. A heavy, rhythmic step sounding. The hunters prepare for battle as the dark-haired Chorok takes the lead. Seated amidst the ruins, the beautiful, blue-haired mermaid princess calmly brushes her hair as the intruders approach. Seonwoo smiles broadly, initially relieved to recognize the mermaid from some previous, perhaps friendlier, encounter. The mermaid's face contorts into a fanged monster as a notification declares the start of a deadly dance. A sudden, piercing cry sounding. The monstrous mermaid shrieks with her glowing purple eyes fixed on the party. A sudden, resonant thram sounding. the mermaid activates a siren's legend, unleashing a massive wave of blue energy.
A soft, pained sounding. Seonwoo struggles as the mermaid's sleep status effect begins to cloud his mind.
Tara, Chorak, and Jung-ho remain unaffected by the sleep magic due to their exceptionally high status resistance levels.
A sudden, quiet glance sounding. Seonwoo realizes he is also safe thanks to his secondary specialty as a mentalist.
A soft, unstable wobble sounding. The purple-haired Dongmei stumbles as he succumbs to the mermaid's powerful sleeping curse.
A sudden, rapid dart sounding, Seonwoo rushes forward to catch his teammate before he collapses onto the floor.
A soft, rhythmic zwirr sounding. Seonwoo activates a support skill to successfully remove the sleep effect from Dongmei. A sudden, soft blink sounding. Dongmei slowly opens his eyes as the healing magic restores his consciousness.
Seonwoo helps the purple-haired man to his feet, checking to make sure he can stand after the attack.
A sudden, loud splash sounding. The mermaid princess summons a massive aqua wave to crush the persistent hunters. A series of sharp steps sounding. Tyrant orders Jung-ho to provide cover while he and Chorak engage the monster. A soft, swirling swirl sounding. Jung-ho activates his venom smog, manifesting a defensive cloud of dark purple energy. A sudden, loud swoom sounding. The poison mist forms a protective barrier around Seonwoo and the weary Dongmei. The mermaid's powerful aqua wave crashes into the venom smog, completely dissipating upon impact with the dark barrier. A sudden, powerful whoosh sounding. Chorak leaps high into the air with his glowing green blade prepared to strike. A sudden, sharp slash sounding. Chorak delivers a heavy blow to the mermaid, who lets out a pained scream. A soft, pained sounding. Seonwoo and Dongmei cover their ears to block out the mermaid's deafening shriek. A sudden, rapid zoom sounding. Tyrant sprints toward the mermaid's throne to finish the confrontation once and for all. A sudden, heavy splash sounding. The mermaid princess gathers her water magic to conjure a lethal counterattack. A sudden, resonant zram sounding. The mermaid princess activates her aqua spear, manifesting a massive trident of water.
Seonwoo shouts a warning, but the pink-haired Tyra offers a confident smirk before meeting the incoming spear head-on.
Tyrant activates his Hua Tuo specialty, assuming the persona of a divine doctor to decide the mermaid's fate.
A sudden, wet ploush sounding. A burst of water erupts as Tyrant counters the mermaid spear with divine precision. A series of quick plick sounding. Tyrant launches a flurry of specialized acupuncture needles from his fingertips. A sudden, sharp swip sounding. Tyrant makes a life or death decision, coldly sentencing the mermaid princess to her death. Pointing a glowing finger toward his target, Tyrant channels a lethal crimson energy to execute his final, decisive technique. A silhouette of the mermaid is shredded by a burst of black energy as Tyrant's lethal skill takes hold. The battle concludes as the mermaid disappears, leaving only a splash of blue blood on her vacant throne. A sudden, sharp ding sounding. The system congratulates Seonwoo on leveling up twice following the boss's defeat.
Seonwoo stares in disbelief at the floating level-up windows, surprised by the sudden surge in his combat stats.
A series of soft steps sounding. Tyrant walks down the stairs and teases the boy for being so worried. A soft, relieved chuckle sounding. Seonwoo smiles as the group finally begins to leave the cold, damp dungeon. A series of heavy steps sounding. Seonwoo groans in exhaustion as the group exits the building at sunset.
Dongmei checks on his friend, but Seonwoo admits he is simply tired after the long, grueling raid.
A sudden, quick tap sounding. Tyrant encourages Seonwoo to use his pick-me-up skill to recover his lost energy.
Seonwoo activates his refresh skill, grumbling that the pink-haired man got the name wrong as they continue walking.
Tyrant and Jung-ho walk together, the pink-haired man wearing a small, satisfied smirk after their successful dungeon exit. A sudden, sharp swish sounding. A new purple-haired hunter reacts in awe as a green energy swirl surrounds him.
Seonwoo sheepishly explains that his refresh skill is quite simple, providing only a minor boost to one's physical condition. A sudden, radiant beam sounding, the excited purple-haired man wonders if Seonwoo has a rare crafting skill to make consumables.
A sudden, quick jump sounding. Taira catches the enthusiastic boy, bluntly stating that Seonwoo has no such special crafting abilities.
A series of steady steps sounding. A man in a brown hoodie and black cap walks away, drawing Jungho's attention. Taira pulls out his phone to call Jaehwi, his expression turning more serious as he prepares to report in. A series of steady steps sounding. The group continues through the sunset as Taira answers Jaehwi's questions over the line. The man in the cap approaches Seonwoo, surprising the boy who clearly doesn't recognize this seemingly familiar acquaintance. Thinking to himself, Seonwoo decides to play along to learn more about the original soul's past social connections.
A series of steady steps sounding. Seonwoo walks with the stranger, while Jungho watches suspiciously from a short distance behind.
A soft, rhythmic shake sounding. Seonwoo tries to stay calm as Jungho observes the interaction with a stern, unreadable gaze.
A series of steady steps sounding. The pair moves ahead, leaving the rest of the group to follow their lead.
A sudden, sharp lean sounding. The man in the cap corners Seonwoo, accusing him of pretending to be a stranger.
Looking intense, the tattooed man asks why the clinic was closed and if his presence was the reason for it.
A sudden, heavy grab sounding. The man desperately begs Seonwoo for help, claiming he is the only one who can. The tattooed man's expression grows dark and unstable as he waits for a response from the bewildered, brown-haired boy. A soft, nervous gulp sounding. Seonwoo realizes the man's intense glare is completely devoid of any calm or rational thought. Taira continues his call with Jaehwi, confirming that the raid is finally over and they have safely made it out. Listening intently to the phone, the pink-haired hunter's expression softens slightly as he hears Jaehwi's voice on the other end. A sudden, quiet pause sounding. Taira stops mid-sentence when Jaehwi asks specifically about Seonwoo's performance during the dangerous dungeon raid.
A soft, pained coo sounding. A flashback reveals Seonwoo struggling for breath as someone screams his name in the cave.
Taira stares into the distance, internally questioning why the reckless boy risked so much during their encounter with the monsters.
A mental image of the original Seonwoo shows him smiling while questioning if his expressions were ever truly signs of dislike.
Recalling his past, Taira remembers those who looked at him with curiosity or excessive affection, complicating his current feelings. Parallel visions of the past and present collide, showing Seonwoo wearing an oxygen mask in two very different stressful situations. Taira remains utterly confused, unable to fathom why the boy doesn't harbor any resentment toward him after everything that happened. Jaehwi demands a full report on the phone, causing Taira to apologize for the complications that occurred during the mission. A sudden, sharp spring sounding. The black-haired Jaehwi stands up in his office, looking concerned about the news he's receiving.
Looking regretful, Taira apologizes for failing his promise to keep Seonwoo perfectly safe throughout the entire grueling dungeon crawl.
Jaehwi's voice turns commanding as he insists on speaking directly with Seonwoo to check on the boy's well-being himself. A sudden, sharp whip sounding. Taira's eyes widen in alarm as he looks towards Seonwoo and the aggressive stranger. Disturbed by the scene unfolding in the distance, Taira wonders what the tattooed man is doing to the defenseless boy. A sudden, heavy grab sounding. The man in the cap brings up a past medical secret regarding his intimate dysfunction. A sudden, sharp halt sounding. Seonwoo freezes in absolute shock as the man's vulgar and personal request is loudly revealed. A sudden, quick glance sounding. The two characters stand in a comically awkward silence after the stranger's TMI medical disclosure. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding.
Seonwoo is horrified to learn that the original soul supposedly promised to fix the problem. A sudden, heavy grab sounding. The man continues his desperate plea, catching the flustered boy completely off guard with his intensity.
The tattooed man explains the absurd skill Seonwoo claimed to have, leaving the boy cursing the original's web of lies.
Seonwoo panics and lets out a loud shout as the desperate,
A sudden, pained "k" sounding and unstable wobble sounding, the tattooed man is violently struck back by an unseen force.
A sudden, sharp grab sounding. Jung-ho intervenes and pulls Seonwoo away from the reach of the confused and desperate man. A sudden, heavy thud sounding. The stranger hits the ground hard, gasping for air as the elite hunters finally interfere. A sudden, sharp turn sounding. Seonwoo looks back in surprise as the pink-haired Taira approaches him from the shadows. A sudden, heavy lift sounding. Taira holds up his phone as a massive, angry Jaehwi looms ominously behind the screen. A series of sharp ding sounding. System windows announce that Jaehwi has activated his summon servant skill to retrieve Seonwoo. Seonwoo stares at the blue summoning window in shock while Jung-ho tells him to take care of himself. A sudden, sharp spring sounding. The man in the cap tries to lunge forward again, but the elite hunters intervene. A sudden, oppressive loom sounding. Taira and Jung-ho tower over the persistent man with terrifyingly dark and menacing auras. A sudden, heavy flop sounding. Seonwoo is sucked through the portal, lamenting his luck as he's pulled back to Jaehwi. Seonwoo blinks as he realizes his current surroundings feel strangely different, neither too hard nor too soft. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding. The boy is horrified to realize he is sitting directly on Jaehwi's lap. A sudden, loud swoon sounding. Seonwoo tries to recoil in shock, but Jaehwi's hand maintains a firm hold. Looking amused, the black-haired man teases Seonwoo for being particularly noisy during their unexpected and intimate encounter. A series of soft flail sounding. Seonwoo struggles desperately to escape the compromising and awkward position on the couch. Sweating nervously, the boy begs to be released while frantically questioning the identity of the man from before. A sudden, soft swash sounding. Jaehwi pulls the boy closer, identifying the stranger as a harasser of his lover. A sudden, soft hub sounding. Jaehwi leans in close to the blushing boy, intensely asking about the stranger's identity. Seonwoo sweatily clarifies that they are only fake lovers and accuses the black-haired man of avoiding the main point. With a charming smile, Jaehwi admits he wouldn't mind if they continued staying in this close and intimate position.
Seonwoo sighs, deciding to reveal that the man is Jung-ho Koo, a hunter from the recent dungeon raid.
Jaehwi listens intently as the boy speculates that the stranger was a regular client at his original world's clinic. A soft, pained ugh sounding, Seonwoo cringes while explaining the man's incredibly personal and vulgar request for medical help.
Jaehwi questions if the original version of the boy understood the request, while Seonwoo offers a nervous laugh.
A sudden, light swat sounding, the boy explains how his thrill skill allows him to manifest experiences as options. A series of soft shake sounding. Seonwoo trembles with dread as he recalls the man's unstable and desperate demands.
Sitting together on the couch, Jaehwi questions how a stranger could possibly know such specific details about Seonwoo's abilities.
Jaehwi looks down thoughtfully, wondering just how much the original version of the boy shared with his acquaintances. A series of soft ponder sounding. Seonwoo notes that such deep secrets are usually only shared between the closest friends. Jaehwi pulls the boy into a sudden hug, bluntly suggesting that the two of them might have been lovers.
Horrified, the boy panics at the thought of dating a nut job, while Jaehwi tells him to regain his composure.
Jaehwi's gaze turns sharp as he notes Seonwoo's indecisiveness and reminds him they aren't real lovers yet. A sudden, soft plop sounding. The black-haired man pins the protesting boy down onto the soft cushions of the couch.
Seonwoo stares up in stunned silence, his heart racing as Jaehwi looms over him with an unreadable expression. Looking down coldly, Jaehwi assumes the boy wouldn't care even if something terrible happened to the man from before. Jaehwi continues to loom over him, his proximity creating an oppressive and tense atmosphere within the quiet room. Pinioned to the couch, Seonwoo wonders if the black-haired man is indirectly warning him to stay out of trouble. A sudden, quick glance sounding, the boy's heart gives a heavy thump as he jolts, nervously agreeing with Jaehwi. A series of soft stare and sweat sounding, the black-haired man watches the flustered boy with a stoic, piercing gaze. A sudden, quick scan sounding, Jaehwi mentions he heard the boy was injured and begins checking him for wounds. A series of soft waves sounding, Seonwoo insists he is fine now, while Jaehwi remains skeptical of his recovery. A sudden, sharp spring sounding, the boy jumps back in alarm as the black-haired man reaches out toward him. Blushing and sweating profusely, Seonwoo protests that it tickles, while Jaehwi firmly tells him to stay perfectly still. Jaehwi looks at him calmly, suggesting that they drop the formalities instead of using professional titles like Hunter Lee. A series of soft mumble sounding, Jaehwi dismisses Seonwoo's concerns about their contract, claiming that things have significantly changed. A sudden, loud creak sounding, Jaehwi performs a heavy lift sounding, raising the boy's leg while mentioning their shared secrets. Jaehwi reveals his biggest secret. He is a regressor who has lived much longer than his physical appearance suggests. A soft, quick ahem sounding, the boy calculates that 100 regression cycles would make the man a century old. A sudden, firm push sounding, Seonwoo asks for some physical space as the intense older man looms over him. A sudden, light raise sounding, Jaehwi smirks and holds up his hands, warning the boy not to be reckless. A sudden, sharp halt sounding, the black-haired man stops mid-stride to look back at the boy with a serious expression. A sudden, loud snap sounding, Seonwoo lets out a frustrated shout, accusing Jaehwi of being hypocritical after kidnapping him. Jaehwi pauses thoughtfully, conceding that the boy might actually have a valid point about his recent behavior and attitude. A sudden, radiant sparkle sounding, a vision shows Jaehwi in a suit with roses, imagining a more romantic greeting. A soft, quick pft sounding, Jaehwi smirks at the silly thought, while Seonwoo thinks it would have been worse. A sudden, soft lift sounding, Seonwoo opens the door to his room, reflecting on the value of his items. A sudden, heavy plop sounding, the boy finds a bathrobe-clad Jaehwi sitting in his room, complaining about his insomnia. A sudden, sharp stand sounding, Seonwoo rejects the man's presence as the black-haired hunter rises from his seat. Jaehwi follows the boy toward the large bed, questioning the need for their contract if neither of them is tired. A sudden, soft plop sounding, Seonwoo sits down on the bed and tiredly confirms that he is indeed exhausted. A sudden, heavy plop sounding, the brown-haired Seonwoo sits on the bed and wonders how other hunters manage to avoid exhaustion. A sudden, sharp turn and flinch sounding, the black-haired Jaehwi reassures the boy that leveling up will eventually make the grind easier. Looking skeptical, Seonwoo watches the man from across the room, feeling that Jaehwi is giving off an increasingly strange vibe. A sudden, sharp spring sounding, the boy jumps up and offers to sleep on the sofa to avoid sharing the bed. Blushing and flustered, Seonwoo questions the efficiency of their current arrangement as he tries to maintain some professional distance. Surrounded by a radiant floral aura, Jaehwi charmingly admits that he simply sleeps better when the boy is right beside him. A sudden loud grab and eek sounding, Seonwoo recalls a chaotic moment in bed and desperately wishes he could just sleep peacefully. Jaehwi looks at him calmly, arguing that their proximity is no different than when Seonwoo uses his unique skills on him. A vision shows Seonwoo activating his status transfer skill, confirming that they must remain within a set distance for it to work. Seonwoo fumes with annoyance, internalizing his frustration at how casually the black-haired man is handling their intimate and awkward situation. A sudden, loud swoop sounding. A hand reaches out as Seonwoo notes that getting actual rest has somehow made him feel even more exhausted. A series of soft rub-rub sounding. Jaehwi leans his head against the boy's stomach, tiredly mumbling about how sleepy he feels. Seonwoo stares down at the black-haired hunter with a look of pure disbelief, wondering if the man is just performing a theatrical act. With a sparkling and handsome expression, Jaehwi looks up and bluntly suggests that the boy should just sleep with him.
In a small, comical form, Seonwoo tries to convince himself that nothing can go wrong since they are both just guys.
The small Seonwoo begs for some personal space, realizing that being stuck so close together is far from an ideal sleeping arrangement. A sudden, radiant smile and twip sounding. A miniature version of Jaehwi waves cheerfully while radiating a playful and innocent energy. A sudden, soft slide sounding. Seonwoo turns his back to Jaehwi in bed, trying his best to ignore the man's presence. A sudden, sharp whip and snap sounding. Jaehwi moves closer and tells a startled Seonwoo not to be scared of him. A sudden, soft cover sounding. The black-haired man leans in close and gently tells the blushing boy to just relax and sleep. A sudden, quick touch and hug sounding. Jaehwi pulls the boy into a firm embrace while promising that everything will be quiet.
Resting his head on the boy, Jaehwi closes his eyes contentedly while Seonwoo remains wide awake, feeling that the situation is completely wrong.
Tucked under the covers together, Seonwoo stares blankly at the ceiling, wondering exactly how his life led to this compromising moment.